Chapter 854. While Elder Floating Light was shocked by the powerful means displayed by Tsing Hui, Lan Xin and Yi Chen were already frightened. Among them, Elder Lanxin, who had been targeted by Qing Su and unleashed the power of Dao Severing and was about to completely destroy his world, could not help but cry out, "Floating Light, are you just going to watch us fall into danger and not save us? If our Void Sword Pavilion loses 2 Chaotic Realm Supreme Masters, it will be extremely disadvantageous in the next action of seizing the Divine Wilderness Great World. When a Sword Master comes and realizes that we are not doing well in the Divine Wilderness Great World, you too will definitely not be able to escape the blame." Hearing Elder Lan Xion's shout, Elder Floating Light also felt that it should be about time. He couldn't really watch Tsing Hui destroy the 2 Supreme Elders, Yi Chen and Lan Xion. On the one hand, this would reduce the power of the Void Sword Pavilion, which was not conducive to the competition for the interests of the Divine Wilderness Great World between the Void Sword Pavilion and the experts of other macro worlds. On the other hand, after all, they were all members of the Void Sword Pavilion. If people knew that they caused him to watch 2 Supreme Elders of the sect die because of their internal strife, he would inevitably be heavily punished. When he thought of that, Elder Floating Light immediately appeared. He said loudly, "Please stay your hand, Green Ruins Swordmaster. The matter of the Hunyuan Sword Sect was due to the recklessness of the 2 sword venerables of our Void Sword Pavilion. I apologize to the Green Ruins Swordmaster." After Tsing Hui destroyed the small worlds of the 2 Supreme Elders, Yi Chen and Lan Xion, he also chose to stop. After all, this was the mysterious void world of the Void Sword Pavilion. Once he really wanted to kill the 2 Supreme Elders, Elder Floating Light would certainly not be able to stand idly by. At that time, as long as the other party did not interfere with the power of the mysterious void world, it was enough to make him retreat with the power of the mysterious void world mobilized by Yi Chen and Lan Xion, the 2 Supreme Masters of the Chaotic Realm. As Tsing Hui stopped, the 2 Supreme Elders, Lan Xion and Yi Chen, looked gloomy. However, they understood that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. One by one, they glanced at Tsing Hui and said coldly, "Good, very good. We will remember this good man." After he finished speaking, he didn't dare to give Tsing Hui any other reaction. His figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Tsing Hui was too lazy to chase after him. As for the so-called 600-year-old Dao item, before he had enough power to completely suppress the Void Sword Pavilion, it was impossible to get it back. Sword Venerable Green Ruins, that's just how the 2 of them are. They're greedy and insatiable. However, not everyone in our pavilion is like that, so please don't take it to heart, Sword Venerable Green Ruins. If there's time, our pavilion should communicate more with your Hunyuan Sword Sect. When Elder Floating Light saw that Lan Xion and Yi Chen were defeated, he was in a good mood. In addition, he guessed that Tsing Hui might have the background of a powerful practitioner, so his words were rather polite. Elder Floating Light's words are reasonable. We should indeed communicate more. After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he turned to Bai Shuang. To be exact, he turned to the small world in her hand. Over the years, the Void Sword Pavilion has taken care of the members of our Hunyuan Sword Sect. Now that I, the Supreme Elder, have returned, it is naturally inappropriate to let them disturb the Void Sword Pavilion too much. I will take them away first. Sword Master Tsing Hui, please go ahead. If you need anything in the future, just come to me directly. If we can help with some small things, our Void Sword Pavilion will naturally try our best to help. Thank you very much. After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he also said to Bai Shuang, "Thank you for giving us a ride." Bai Shuang nodded and asked Elder Floating Light for instructions. Elder Floating Light naturally would not stop her. He watched Tsing Hui leave the mysterious void world with a smile on his face. After Qing Su left, Elder Floating Light slightly restrained his smile. The Divine Wilderness world has really provoked all the bad guys. However, a rich world that produces 15,000 items of natural way a year. Even the great divine sense would be tempted. It's reasonable for such a situation to occur. I don't know how much profit our Void Sword Pavilion can take in such a big world. Outside the station of the Void Sword Pavilion, Bai Shuang followed Xing Hui. She seemed a little powerless about what had just happened in the Void Sword Pavilion. Qing Su seemed to be able to tell that she was not in the mood. He could not help but laugh. What's there to be unhappy about? The Void Sword Pavilion is powerful, but we're not weak. Compared to the sovereigns and rulers of the Void Sword Pavilion and the other major worlds, we only lack time. If we have enough time, neither you nor I will pale in comparison to any of the sovereigns and rulers. Don't forget, you're the genius sword master Bai Heng. Bai Shuang was amused by Tsing Hui's words. What genius girl sword master Bai Heng? The title of sword master can only be owned by dominators who have cultivated the immemorial sacred body. If we still call ourselves sword masters to the outside world, it will only make people laugh at us, and even if I owe you the originator, it will take me at least thousands of years to cultivate to the level of my master Liha sword master. Thousands of years? Are you still not satisfied with this number? You should know that many practitioners of the divine true body realm are unable to condense a small world in their lifetime and advance to the realm of one thought realm. Among the top masters of the realm of one thought realm, how many of them can step into the chaotic realm? Not to mention the leap from the chaotic realm to the dominator realm, which realm is not a one-plank bridge for thousands of soldiers and horses. If those old masters of the realm of one thought realm knew that you are distressed over the fact that it will take you thousands of years to become a sword master, they will definitely be furious. I need thousands of years to become a sword master, but you. I haven't seen you for 100 years, and you are already a sword sovereign. You are a sword sovereign in both name and in reality. Compared to you, I am no genius. As Bai Shuang spoke, her expression quickly became serious. I will now pass on the immortal exterminating Dao slashing sword art to you. However, due to the matter with Grand Elder Ichen and Grand Elder Lan Xen, I'm afraid you won't be able to stay in the profound void world for long. I also won't be able to help you much. You can only rely on yourself to cultivate the immortal exterminating Dao slashing sword art. After all, any of the four Grand Elders can control the power of the profound void world's formations. If they take advantage of the fact that you are in the profound void world to control the formations and attack you, you will be in a very passive situation. I understand. It's enough to have your cultivation experience. That's true. It's not like you haven't surpassed your master before. Back then, I taught you the sword of the glorious sun, but in the end, you gave me several powerful sword techniques that were even more powerful than the sword of the glorious sun in return. Even now, the concepts behind these sword techniques are still very important to me. Bai Shuang said. Xing Hui nodded. In the technological civilization of the Lord of Time's lineage, the 16th level would be able to use the power of neutron stars. However, if they wanted to completely use neutron stars to create battleships, they would need to reach the 18th level. As for using black holes to create weapons of war, that was something that only the 19th level could grasp. Xing Hui had taught Bai Shuang the concepts of the glorious sun, solar burst, solar eclipse, and Black Sunday. If she could truly comprehend all of them and cultivate them step by step, it would not be a problem for her to reach the chaotic realm. As for the origin saint body, that was not something that he could derive. After all, the reason why he could possess his own way was because of the fortune jade and his epiphany. Otherwise, he might not have been able to reach a level comparable to great masters. Use your heart to comprehend, Bai Shuang said. In the next moment, she pointed a finger at Xing Hui's forehead. For a moment, the various mysteries of the celestial slashing path sword technique poured into his head and appeared clearly in his mind. As the supreme inheritance of the Void Sword Pavilion, The celestial slashing path sword technique was not recorded in words. It could only be passed on in a one-to-one manner. This method was also the greatest method to ensure that the sword technique would not be leaked. This sword technique, as Bai Shuaying passed on the sword technique to Tsing Hui immediately sensed the extraordinariness of the sword technique. The chi of annihilation contained in the sword technique could be said to have pierced through the clouds. Even though he had not cultivated it yet, Tsing Hui could sense the extremely shocking offensive and invasive nature of the sword technique. This was a sword technique that did not have any variations. It was an attack and killing technique that was developed to the extreme. In particular, when this sword technique was combined with the broken Great Tao of Slaughter from ancient times, its destructive power could be displayed incisively and vividly. No wonder if this sword technique is cultivated to perfection, it can allow a ruler to threaten a powerful expert. This is just like the ultimate sword Tao. Once cultivated, a celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth can also tear apart the domain of a domain realm cultivator. No, this sword technique is much stronger than the ultimate sword Tao. Although there is a big difference between the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth and the domain realm, there are still many examples in history of using the celestial phenomenon of heaven and earth to counterattack the domain realm. However, the gap between a ruler who has cultivated the origin sacred body and a powerful expert who has transformed his body into the Tao is almost immeasurable. Even the gap between the golden core realm and the transcendent realm may not be comparable to the gap between a ruler and a powerful expert. In this case, if this sword technique is cultivated to a level that can allow a ruler to threaten a powerful expert, its power can be imagined. Tsing Hui was somewhat excited in his heart. More than that, he was looking forward to this sword technique. If he could cultivate this sword technique and rely on the characteristics of his own existence and non-existence to appear and disappear unpredictably and assassinate people, who below the ruler realm would be able to resist him. In fact, if he could cultivate this sword technique to perfection in the supremacy realm, he might even be able to contend against a ruler who had cultivated the origin saint body, such as Zhou Xian. Tsing Hui, comprehend it well. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me through the Chaos Temple. My personal space in the Chaos Temple hasn't changed. Bai Shuaying said. I understand. There's no time to lose. I'll contact Venerable Master Zhu Zhao and Venerable Master Tianqiong while doing my best to cultivate this sword technique. I have to say that this sword technique of yours is of great help to me. It's good that it's useful. Bai Shuaying smiled faintly before she added, You have to be careful. Many people know that you're a level 60 primal chaos expert. This temptation isn't something that ordinary primal chaos realm supremes can resist. Once your location is exposed, it's very likely that they'll band together to deal with you. Tsing Hui couldn't help but chuckle when he heard this. If they band together right now, I'm still somewhat afraid of them. However, as my understanding of my own strength deepens and I cultivate this sword technique of yours, when the time comes, they won't even have the time to hide from me. How would they dare to appear in front of me? Is that so? Then I'll wait for the moment when you show off your might. Bai Shuaying's pretty face was filled with a smile. You'll see, Tsing Hui said solemnly. Today I was forced to move things. My limbs are weak from all the moving. It's a tragedy. What's worse is that my entire body will be sore tomorrow for 2 or 3 days. Chapter 855. The Divine Wilderness Great World. Tsing Hui's figure shuttled rapidly through the void. Back then, the distance of millions or tens of millions of kilometers was not worth mentioning to him now. With his current flying speed, even if he was inside the Divine Wilderness Great World, he could travel back and forth in a day without using spatial travel, not to mention using spatial travel and other technique. In addition, through his understanding of the Great Tao, he could sense the battle fluctuations that were far beyond his imagination. It could be said that even if he were sitting in the center of the Tianhuang continent and two mighty figures at the boundary realm with a single thought were fighting in the eastern wilderness great world, he would be able to sense it immediately. This realm had already reached the immortal and mortal level that was beyond human understanding. However, his destination this time was not the eastern wilderness great world, but the hidden sword continent. The divine wilderness great world was very important, but it did not mean that the earth world was not important. With his identity and position, it was already the best outcome for any cultivator of the immortal Tao civilization to not start a war when they saw him. If he encountered some who overreacted and directly ignited their immortal energy, it would not be strange for them to fight to the death with him. Under such circumstances, if he could ask the seven-star sword spirit of the hidden sword continent to come forward and persuade the cultivators of the immortal Tao civilization, things would undoubtedly go much smoother. Unfortunately, when Qing Su truly arrived on the hidden sword continent, basically no disciples of the hidden sword sect could be seen anywhere on the continent anymore. Their sect had been destroyed, and there was even a great expert who had reached boundary with a thought leading a group of saints' true bodies and pathfinder cultivators. They dug deep into the ground in search of any place on the continent that might have an item that could carry the way. As for the myriad sword peak that had existed since the hidden sword sect was born, its whereabouts were unknown. The seven-star sword spirit is equivalent to a primordial immortal, which is equivalent to a primordial immortal. However, compared to a true primordial immortal, it's no longer at its peak after countless years. When faced with the invasion of many great worlds, it'll most likely choose to temporarily avoid them. If it had fought with a primordial immortal, Bai Shuiying would have mentioned it to me. After all, it's a primordial immortal sword spirit. Xing Hui paused above the hidden sword sect for a moment, a look of regret on his face. Then, his gaze swept over the cultivators of the hidden sword sect who were at the one-thought realm, the divine true body, and the traversing realm. The special characteristics that existed and did not exist on their bodies were directly transformed. For a moment, a huge and terrifying pressure suddenly enveloped the entire hidden sword continent. It was like a black hole that devoured everything, emitting a force field that was purely targeted at the entire continent. It directly pressed down on the cultivators of the three great stages from the divine true body to the one-thought realm to the point that their bodies almost collapse. From today onwards this continent belongs to me. If any cultivator who is not from the divine wilderness great world dares to stay on this continent, they will die. As the aura on Xing Hui's body erupted, his voice quickly spread throughout the entire hidden sword continent. Buzz buzz! The moment Xing Hui manifested his aura, the mighty cultivator of the one-thought realm on this continent also erupted his own aura, manifesting the power of the world to resist Xing Hui's terrifying pressure that almost enveloped the entire continent. At the same time, he said with some difficulty, "Senior, we are from the Dragon God sect of the Jade Capital Great World. Our sect ancestor has already occupied this continent 8 years ago. Until now, with this continent as the center, a radius of 3 million kilometers belongs to our Dragon God sect. If you want to forcibly occupy the territory of our Dragon God sect of the Jade Capital Great World, our sect ancestor, and even our entire Jade Capital Great World, will probably not agree to it. The Jade Capital Great World? You still don't agree?" Xing Hui's gaze turned and fell directly on the mighty cultivator of the one-thought realm, who had erupted with the power of the world to resist his chaotic realm aura. In the next moment, he stabbed out with his sword. A beam of sword chi shot out with unbelievable speed, easily piercing through the world barrier of the world boundary realm cultivator. The remaining force didn't decrease in the slightest as it slashed into the boundary artifact, instantly shattering it. The mighty cultivator of the one-thought realm was slightly taken aback when the boundary object shattered. However, as the boundary object was destroyed and the black hole formed from it began to engulf and annihilate the matter of the entire small world, a look of horror immediately appeared on his face. No, Tsing Hui pressed down with his hand, and the terrifying force field that was like a black hole ruthlessly crushed the world of the mighty cultivator of the One Thought Realm, causing his world that was already rapidly collapsing to completely collapse. Even his cries of despair could not be heard as all matter was engulfed and stopped abruptly. If you don't agree, then die. Tsing Hui casually killed the mighty cultivator of the One Thought Realm, and his gaze swept across the remaining experts of the One Thought Realm and the Divine True Body Realm, who were filled with shock. That whatever god dragon sect ancestor has something against me. Tell him to come find me directly. The surviving experts of the One Thought Realm and the Divine True Body Realm all had pale faces. They did not dare to stay on the Hidden Sword continent any longer, and did not even dare to leave behind any harsh words. All of them quickly flew out of the Hidden Sword continent. Just like how Tsing Hui could immediately sense the energy fluctuations of all the mighty cultivators of the One Thought Realm and above fighting on the entire continent, the primal chaos realm supremes of other worlds might not be as sensitive as him, but the nearby primal chaos realm supremes could sense it. Tsing Hui instantly felt at least 3 gazes shooting towards this continent at the same time. Among these 3 gazes, Tsing Hui could clearly sense the anger in one of them. However, other than anger, there was also a trace of fear with the power that Tsing Hui had just displayed. Even the primal chaos realm supremes would have to carefully consider whether a mere hidden sword continent was worth making an enemy of such a powerful primal chaos realm supremes, let alone a peak expert of the One Thought Realm. After ordering all the cultivators of the Hidden Sword continent who were not from the Divine Wilderness Great World to leave the Hidden Sword continent, Tsing Hui did not check in detail whether the Divine True Body Realm and the One Thought Realm cultivators had truly left. Instead, he turned and continued flying in the direction of the Eastern Wasteland. Although the Eastern Wasteland was quite a distance away from the Hidden Sword continent, to the current Tsing Hui, it would not take much time. However, just as Tsing Hui was about to reach the Eastern Wasteland, he sensed the aura of another primal chaos realm supremacy on an island not far from this continent. When he sensed Tsing Hui's arrival, this primal chaos realm supremacy immediately appeared, manifesting a world god with a diameter of over 10,000 meters. Sweeping out a majestic pressure, he blocked in front of Tsing Hui. "How should I address you, Supremacy? Why are you blocking my way?" Tsing Hui asked. Seeing Tsing Hui's lazy attitude, the primal chaos realm supremacy's expression turned ugly, but he still said, "I am Yi Huan, the Supreme Elder of the Dream God Palace of the Illusion Great World. The land within a radius of 15 million kilometers belongs to the Dream God Palace. If you have any business, we can assist you. If not, please return." Dream God Palace? Tsing Hui knew that there were a total of 3 factions in the Illusion Great World. One was the Dream God Palace, which was formed by 3 primal chaos realm supremacies. Another was the Fantasy Moon Paradise, which had 2 supremacies. The last was the Feather Butterfly Palace, whose palace master was the #1 expert of the Illusion Great World, Supremacy Mengyu. These 3 factions restrained and attacked each other, and their relationship could not be considered close. However, due to the shocking benefits in the Divine Wilderness Great World, the 3 factions temporarily put aside their differences and were in an alliance. "I can't be bothered with your 15 million kilometers of territory, but I want the Eastern Wasteland," Tsing Hui said directly. The Eastern Wasteland. When Yi Huan saw that Tsing Hui wanted to snatch food from the tiger's mouth and occupy the territory that belonged to their Illusion Great World, his expression turned ugly. "Sir, you want to take a continent from the Dream God Palace as soon as you open your mouth. Aren't you looking down on the Dream God Palace a little? Although the Dream God Palace is not a peak faction like the Void Sword Pavilion, we are not weak either. Right now, the 3 factions of our Illusion Great World are in an alliance because of the benefits of the Divine Wilderness Great World. Sir, offending the Dream God Palace is equivalent to making the Fantasy Moon Paradise and the Feather Butterfly Palace your enemy. Please consider the consequences carefully. Do you want to see how long it will take for me to destroy your delimiting item, and how long it will take for me to destroy your world? Xing Hui did not answer Yi Huan's question at all. Instead, he took out the Scarlet Abyss sword and said slowly. A trace of anger flashed in Yi Huan's eyes. I would really like to see the people of our illusion great world, whoosh. Before Yi Huan could finish his words, Xing Hui's figure moved. Inconceivably fast, thunderous attacks, and indomitable momentum made him seem like a stream of light, instantly colliding with the world god manifested by Yi Huan. Furious flames burned in the Yin Huan sovereign's eyes, but Qing Su's attack had already completely erupted on his body. Sword qi that could sever the power of ways surged into the air, shattering his connection with the world of his main body in a single instance. Immediately, the world god shattered like a glass statue that had been hit by a bullet, scattering into countless transparent crystals that scattered in all directions. Any one of these transparent crystals contained pure energy. Not only did it have an immeasurable effect on Saint Realm cultivators comprehending the law of space, but it also had an immeasurable effect on condensing a divine true body in the future. If someone could collect all these transparent crystals and make good use of them, it would not be difficult to cultivate tens of thousands of divine true body cultivators. If you have the guts, then try condensing a second world god. After destroying the world god, Xing Hui continued onwards, gazing in the direction of the eastern wastelands. To no surprise, that was where Yi Huan's true body resided. However, as Xing Hui flew towards the eastern wastelands, Yi Huan fell silent. After a long while, his voice rang out once more, reaching Xing Hui's ears. Our illusion Great World's three-sect alliance will not let this matter rest. After that, Sovereign Yi Huan's enormous world, which was like a shadow that covered half of the eastern wasteland, quickly swept away all the cultivators belonging to Dream God Palace. Then, he tore open the void, jumped through space, and fled. Let this matter rest. Xing Hui stared in the direction that Yi Huan had left in, as well as the gazes of the other sovereigns that were gradually withdrawn. He murmured inside, "Yeah, they won't let this matter rest." As he thought that, he had already arrived in the eastern wastelands. His eyes grew colder and colder as he looked at the vast territory that had been destroyed by the battle between the peak experts. However, just as he was about to begin searching for clues about Nalan Phase Group, he trembled slightly. He was pleasantly surprised. The reconstruction of the immortal ending Dao slashing sword technique has been completed so quickly. Chapter 856. In order to prevent the immortal slashing path sword art from causing trouble for Bai Shuaing, Xing Hui threw it into the Fortune Jade after obtaining it. With the help of the Fortune Jade's power of deduction, he began to deduce the changes of this sword art. He originally thought that it would take him countless years to deduce a great Tao that was compatible with him. A supreme sword art like the immortal slashing path sword art, which was considered a supreme sword art in the Void Sword Pavilion, would take at least a few years or more. However, he didn't expect that it would only take him one day to depart from Tianhuang mainland to the Hidden Sword Continent and then to the Eastern Wasteland mainland. However, in just one day, the immortal slashing path sword art was actually completed? Could it be that the Fortune Jade has learned to slack off? Don't deduce a sword art that's less than half or even one-third of the original sword art. Xing Hui's mind turned and quickly focused on the brand-new immortal slashing path sword art that the Fortune Jade had deduced. The standard in his heart was that the newly deduced immortal slashing path sword art's power should be at least 80% of its heyday. Only by retaining more than 80% of the original immortal slashing path sword art's power and practicing it to perfection would he have the hope of fighting against a second-level Chaos Dominator at the first level of Chaos. If he couldn't reach this standard, He would rather deduce it again or not deduce it and practice it directly. At worst, he would completely kill anyone who witnessed this sword art in the future. However, from the fact that the fortune jade had only taken such a short time to deduce it, the effect might be weaker than he had imagined. As he thought about that, Qing Su had already begun to comprehend the newly derived immortal exterminating Dao sword technique from the fortune jade. In just a moment, Tsing Hui, who didn't have much hope in his heart, opened his eyes in shock. This sword art. Although it took less than a day for this sword art to be deduced by the fortune jade, it had been changed almost beyond recognition. Only some shadows of the immortal slashing path sword art could be vaguely seen. This was not the main point. More importantly, this sword technique seemed to be extremely compatible with Tsing Hui's own uniting Great Dao. If he could combine this sword technique with his own Great Dao, in terms of power, it would be many times stronger than the original immortal ending Dao slashing sword formula. If I can really master this swordsmanship, no, with the deduction of the fortune divine jade and the combination of it with my own Great Dao, this swordsmanship to me is equivalent to being created by me. Mastering it to perfection is almost a matter of course for me. It's just a matter of how much time I'm willing to spend to verify this swordsmanship. Tsing Hui took a deep breath. He couldn't wait any longer. I'll immediately find Nalan Fei and the Zhua clan. After that, I'll enter closed-door cultivation and master this sword technique. As long as I master this sword technique, let alone the primal chaos supremes currently rampaging in the divine wilderness great world, even if the rulers from other organizations who have cultivated the primal chaos sacred body were to come a few decades later, I might still be able to fight them all. Tsing Hui took a step forward and traveled through the void. Very quickly, he arrived at the center of the eastern wilderness. Due to Sovereign Yi Huan's defeat, the Dream God Palace cultivators who had been rampaging in the eastern wilderness had all retreated from the eastern wilderness. Currently, the eastern wilderness could be said to be peaceful. Tsing Hui carefully recalled the technique of using spiritual power. Very quickly, his spiritual power spread out like a large net with tiny lattices. It rapidly spread out in all directions. Very quickly, it covered the entire eastern wilderness. Due to the existence of those tiny lattices, Tsing Hui couldn't sense cultivators below the immortal realm. He couldn't do it like an immortal cultivator's divine telekinesis, but he could sense all the auras above the immortal realm in the eastern wilderness. Moreover, the stronger the aura, the more obvious the sensing ability. Hunyuan Heaven Sect. Nalan Fei. I've found her. She's already cultivated to the divine power realm? It can be considered not bad. This kind of cultivation is more than enough to oversee the eastern wastelands. Very quickly, Tsing Hui sensed the location of Nalan Fei's aura. His figure traveled through the void, and very quickly, he appeared in a dense forest. Tsing Hui looked at the forest for a moment and felt that it was somewhat familiar. After thinking about it carefully, he immediately remembered that this was the forest where they had first traded with Sword Master Bai Heng. In this forest there was a huge underground space. The underground space's environment was very complicated. Once they encountered any danger, people could hide inside and avoid being chased by enemies. Although this underground space wasn't much in terms of size to a peak world creation cultivator, and it wouldn't be difficult for them to destroy the entire underground space, just like how there was only one world creation cultivator on the Hidden Sword continent. In the eastern wilderness, the cultivators who collected Dao-carrying items were mainly at the Divine True Body and Traversal Realm. Unless these people knew that there were good benefits in this underground space, they wouldn't spend the effort to burrow underground and search for the cultivators hidden in this space. Whoosh! Tsing Hui's figure flashed, and he appeared in the underground space. Some of the basic warning formations set up in the periphery of the underground space were as if they didn't exist to him. He quietly passed through them. Not long after, he had already arrived at the cave where Nalan Fei and the others were. Nalan Fei and the others were not the only ones living in this cave. There were also many higher-ups of the Hunyuan Heaven sect. However, only a handful of them were people that Tsing Hui truly recognized. Similar to the original Hunyuan Heaven sect higher-ups, such as the Hunyuan Saint, Elder Qin Lian, Elder Fa Dai, Elder Xing Lu, Sect Masters Zhua Kunlun, and Grand Elder Bei, were all nowhere to be seen. The only ones he was familiar with were Grand Elder Tang Sun, the Sky Origin Peak Master, and a few insignificant members of the Zhua family. Very few of these people had broken through to the Saint stage, and most were limited to the Immortal stage. Who is it? Tsing Hui appeared in the underground space. After some time, Elder Tang Sun, who had already reached the never-ending stage, quickly woke up and shouted, "Grand Elder Tang Sun, it's me," Tsing Hui said as he slowly walked out. Grand Elder Tang Sun's shout had already caused chaos in the underground space. Many people rushed out in panic, but when they saw the figure that had walked in from outside, they were stunned on the spot. Grand Elder Tsing Hui? It's Grand Elder Tsing Hui? Is Grand Elder Tsing Hui really back? Grand Elder Tsing Hui? That's great. When the crowd saw Tsing Hui suddenly appear, they couldn't hide the joy on their faces. But soon, they seemed to think of something. Although Tsing Hui was a legendary figure in the Hunyuan Heaven sect and had made a name for himself in the entire Divine Wilderness Great World, he was so weak that he wasn't even worth mentioning when compared to the invaders that the Divine Wilderness Great World was facing. Even if he really did return, it would only mean one more victim. With this thought, the joy in the crowd's eyes dimmed again. Tsing Hui. Big brother! At this moment, two surprised voices came from the crowd again. Nalan Fei and Zhua Yunqing ran out of the cave at the same time. Tsing Hui looked at the two and nodded. It's good that you're fine. We were really worried that we wouldn't be able to see you again. Nalan Fei's expression dimmed. Sect Master, Grand Elders, these people were very valuable to the invaders and were captured in the end. Almost all of them died. Okay, don't worry, don't be sad. This kind of thing won't happen again. I've already settled the matter in the Eastern Wasteland, so you don't have to hide in the cave anymore. If you want to return to the mainland, then do so. If you feel that it's not safe outside, I've also bought a small world. It's like the Hunyuan sacred body of a second-layer Chaos Realm ruler. It has its own space, and the laws circulate endlessly. Things have been settled? What do you mean? Could it be that the legendary sword master of the Void Sword Pavilion has come? Nalan Fei was slightly taken aback and puzzled. After a moment, she said, "Not long ago, I sensed a huge battle erupting in the direction of the ocean. But the auras of the two sides were too terrifying. Even if I'm inland, I still feel a kind of trembling and fear from my soul. Could it be the experts of the Void Sword Pavilion are chasing away the invaders from the Dream God Palace?" "You've heard of the Void Sword Pavilion?" "I've heard of it. The Void Sword Pavilion seems to be the only power that's willing to protect the cultivators of our divine wasteland world. However, to obtain their protection, you need to provide an extremely large amount of Dao-carrying items or have the relevant information. And we can't provide so many Dao-carrying items," Zhua Yunqing answered from the side. "The Void Sword Pavilion. They're also one of the invaders. They're not trustworthy. As for the battle ripples you sensed not long ago, it was me fighting with Dream God Palace's Chaos Realm Supreme Yi Huan. In the end, I defeated Supreme Yi Huan. Now, the Eastern Wasteland world is under my control." After Tsing Hui finished speaking, Nalan Fei couldn't help but widen her eyes. "Tsing Hui, you? What did you say? You defeated Dream God Palace's Supreme Yi Huan. I heard. Supreme Yi Huan is an existence that's even more powerful and terrifying than the legendary realm Supreme Yi Huan. You? Why are you making a fuss over nothing? Don't forget that I'm a genius who spent more than 10 years cultivating to become the strongest person in the divine wasteland world. It took me more than 10 years to go from the first level of the immortality realm to the shattering vacuum realm. Now that more than 100 years have passed, is it strange that I've broken through to the chaos realm supreme Yuan? Tsing Hui tried to speak as casually as possible to reduce their mental pressure. Hearing Tsing Hui's words, Nalan Fei opened her mouth, but for a moment, she didn't know how to answer. Going from the first level of the immortality realm to the shattering vacuum realm in more than 10 years was a leap of 15 realms. Then, spending another 100 years to break through to the chaos realm supreme Yuan from the shattering vacuum realm was a leap of 4 realms. It didn't seem like something that was incomprehensible. What he said made sense. She really couldn't refute it. She just felt something was wrong no matter how she thought about it. Alright, there's no time to lose. Let's go out. You can tell them that from today onwards, everyone in the Eastern Wasteland world doesn't need to hide anymore. Chapter 857. The situation in the Eastern Wilderness had calmed down. Although Tsing Hui had taken over the 2 continents, the Eastern Wilderness and the Hidden Sword Continent, offending the primes of the Dream God Palace and the Jade Capital Great World, he had not made any further moves after taking over the 2 continents. Moreover, many primes were wary of his powerful battle strength. After realizing that he had no intention of expanding outwards, they tacitly acknowledged his dominance over the Eastern Wilderness and the Hidden Sword Continent. After all, in terms of the size of the entire Divine Wilderness Great World, it was not too much for a primes to take over 2 continents. Moreover, they were not the main continents close to the Tianhuang Great World. I can't stay in the Divine Wilderness Great World for too long. I have to make a trip to Earth to understand the situation. Then, I have to speed things up here in the Divine Wilderness Great World. The sooner I master the improved Absolute Immortal Tao slashing sword technique, the better. Only when I have the battle strength to kill a primes of the chaos can I intimidate the entire Divine Wilderness Great World and expel the invading primes of the Divine Wilderness Great World. Then, the Divine Wilderness Great World will regain its temporary peace. Tsing Hui stood on the ruins of the Hunyuan Heaven sect, but his gaze was focused on the Scarlet Abyss Sword in his hand. The Scarlet Abyss Sword had received the support of his power of ways. In terms of cultivation level, it could actually be regarded as chaotic realm already. However, due to the fact that Qing Su's great way of returning to one was just too weak, the Scarlet Abyss Sword's true battle prowess was still limited to the level of world creation despite being at chaotic realm despite receiving the support of his power of ways. The growth of the Scarlet Abyss Sword spirit, other than its spirituality, also includes its own energy level. Its spirituality can only be slowly nurtured by my sword intent, and no matter how fast it grows, it can't be too fast. But its energy level, it's not impossible. A cold glint flashed in Tsing Hui's eyes. Ever since he had cultivated the great Tao of unification, he had tried his best not to use the various immortal techniques and divine abilities he had mastered. There was no other reason, since his great Tao required him to simplify. If he did not adhere to this belief and instead used other divine abilities and immortal techniques, where would the great Tao of unification come from? Over time, his great Tao nomological laws would be affected and his progress would slow. But now, in order for the Scarlet Abyss Sword spirit to grow as quickly as possible, to the point where it possessed the true strength of a primal chaos expert, to the point where it could oversee the Divine Wilderness Great World, he had no choice but to use Flower Blooming Moment to refine those Chaos Realm Supremes into Tao fruits for the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit to refine. Now, this is the Immortal Slashing Tao Sword Technique. No, this sword technique has been remodeled and modified by me. It's no longer the true Immortal Slashing Tao Sword Technique. If I attain the Great Tao one day, it won't be difficult for me to use this sword technique to slay powerful beings and extraterritorial evil gods. Then, I'll change its name to Immortal Slashing God Sword Chi. Tsing Hui said. At the same time, he focused his mental world on the fortune jade, constantly digesting the various mysteries of the immortal-ending god-slaying sword chi that the fortune jade transmitted to him. This sword technique had been repaired by the fortune divine jade, and it seemed to have evolved according to his great Tao. In just a moment, Tsing Hui had already understood this sword technique by heart. Absolute immortal, absolute immortal. The key to this improved sword technique lies in the word absolute. Absolute as in despair, absolute as in hopeless situations. Since I've just started practicing it, I might not be able to annihilate the power of the great path like a great divine ability expert, but I can create a special effect similar to the celestial devil absolute domain. When the sword strikes, it can sever the power of the great path, but it can also seal the power of the great path. Sealing the power of the great path is nothing to a ruler who has cultivated the immemorial sacred body. Their bodies have a natural cycle, so even if the great path is sealed, they won't be affected for a short period of time. But for those primes in the chaos realm who completely rely on the power of the great path to have great divine power, this sword technique is an absolute killer. The greatest characteristic of primal chaos realm supremes was that their worlds were strengthened by the power of great Daos. Not only were they stronger than ordinary small worlds, even if they were penetrated or destroyed, as long as there was an endless supply of power of great Daos, they would still be able to hold on. If their powers of the great path were sealed by Tsing Hui's swordsmanship, primal chaos realm, at most, they would be able to derive a small world to the extreme and create a world with a single thought. Tsing Hui quietly comprehended the sword technique that he had renamed Absolute Immortal and God-Slaying Sword Chi. With the help of the Fortune Jade, this sword technique had long been in perfect harmony with his own great path. As his thoughts turned, countless inspirations came one after another. By the time he had completely comprehended this sword technique, he had already reached the entry level of this sword technique. Although the entry level of this sword technique had enough sealing power, it only gave him the ability to kill primal chaos realm supremes. There was still a certain distance before he could kill primal chaos realm supremes quickly. Therefore, Tsing Hui did not stop cultivating and comprehending this sword technique. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. During this year, Rainbow Sword Master and the others had re-established contact with esteemed Zhu Zhao, esteemed Tianqiong, esteemed Zhangzhen, and the others. Tsing Hui had personally come out and received them into his small world. Although Tsing Hui's small world was only 100 kilometers wide, it was opened by a great divine ability expert. Not only did it have an internal space, but it also had various great path manifestations. Since these great paths were simulated by great divine ability experts, if they were allowed to comprehend these great paths, they would only go astray. However, among the people in the divine wilderness great world, other than Tsing Hui and Bai Shuang, the strongest was only esteemed Zhu Zhao's divine true body. It was barely enough for them to cultivate in this small world with a diameter of 100 kilometers. Absolute immortal and God-slaying sword chi. Small success. Although it would be easier to kill primal chaos realm supremes if I could cultivate this sword technique to the large success realm, and even if the dozens of primal chaos realm supremes in the divine wilderness great world were to join forces out of fear for their safety, I would still be able to easily defeat them. However, I have already wasted a year and can't wait any longer. Although the divine wilderness great world is important to me, it can't be compared to Earth. A year of delay is already the limit. Tsing Hui stopped cultivating. In addition, there's also that mysterious 7 stars sword spirit. With these primal chaos realm supremes delaying me, I still haven't found its whereabouts. Then, allow me to purge the divine wilderness great world, and then mobilize the power of the entire divine wilderness great world to find the whereabouts of the 7 stars sword spirit. After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he took a step forward and his figure rapidly shuttled through the void. At the same time, He exerted his special ability to exist and not exist to the limit. Not long after, he had crossed tens of millions of kilometers of territory and arrived at the territory of the divine dragon sex ancestor in the jade capital Great World. Xing Hui slightly sensed the location of the divine dragon sex ancestor and quietly approached him. His power of the great Tao was to simplify the complex and return all things to one. Along the way, any great Tao law or divine power that encountered his great Tao law would be simplified layer by layer, and finally be swallowed and transformed into a brand new characteristic that was exactly the same as his own great Tao. This power of the great Tao seemed simple, but in fact it was full of exclusiveness. It should be known that even a beam of sunlight actually contained red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, and many other colors. How difficult would it be to simplify the world and return all things to one? It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was a dictatorship on the path of cultivation. However, right now, Fang Xinjian had relied on this special characteristic of his great Tao to barge into the territory of the divine dragon sex ancestor. It was only when the distance between the two of them was less than 1,000 kilometers that the divine dragon sex ancestor, who was sitting on top of a sacrificial altar in a great hall, seemed to have sensed something. His gaze immediately scanned the surroundings. After realizing that he was unable to get any closer, Xing Hui did not waste any more time. His originally hidden figure suddenly revealed itself, and he was like a fiery meteor that shot out from the void. Bringing with him a sharp sword light that could shatter the void, he brazenly pierced right in front of the divine dragon sex ancestor. To a primordial chaos realm expert who could travel hundreds of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of kilometers in the world, 1,000 kilometers could be said to be covered in the blink of an eye. This divine dragon sex ancestor only had time to shout out, "Who's there?" Xing Hui became one with his sword, and the sharp sword chi that swept out was like a shocking rainbow that cut across the sky, slashing fiercely onto the world's barrier of the divine dragon sex ancestor. Kacha! Accompanied by the soft sound of glass shattering, a hole with a diameter of several hundred kilometers appeared on the world's barrier that the divine dragon sex ancestor had yet to activate to its limits, revealing the blue sky and white clouds within the world. When this scene landed in the eyes of the cultivators in this world, it was as if a crack had suddenly been torn open in the firmament, as if the sky had collapsed. Due to the effect of the collision between the inside and outside of the world, violent air currents gushed in crazily. The living beings in the area that were closer to the world were instantly crushed by the violent air currents that gushed in. However, Xing Hui did not care about the changes in the divine dragon sex ancestor's small world. He pierced through the world's barrier and charged at full speed toward the divine dragon sex ancestor's boundary delimitation item. At the next moment, it was clear that he was going to shatter the divine dragon sex ancestor's boundary delimitation item with a single sword strike. "It's you. Isn't it enough that you've taken one of my continents? You actually want to take a mile after taking an inch? Do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Damn it, my world is not for you to be presumptuous. Get out of here." After the divine dragon sex ancestor sensed the figure that had invaded his world, he immediately roared. The power of the entire world surged and exploded violently. It was like a tsunami that continuously attacked Xing Hui's body, vainly trying to force him out of the world. When the tsunami-like power rushed toward Xing Hui's body, it was constantly offset by the Great Tao's rules that had simplified the complexity into simplicity. The Great Tao's rules were transformed into high-energy energy, the high-energy energy was transformed into low-energy energy, and the low-energy energy was transformed into ordinary natural energy that dissipated in the world. Under the influence of this great Tao's power, not only was Xing Hui's figure not repelled by the divine dragon sex ancestor, but he also took advantage of the opportunity to travel closer to the boundary delimitation item. One person actually withstood the pressure of my entire world. The divine dragon sex ancestor's face was filled with shock. However, his movements were not slow in the slightest. In the center of the tsunami-like pressure of the world, the divine dragon sex ancestors will condensed into a world god that transformed into a towering giant tens of thousands of meters tall. It roared and threw a punch at Tsing-Hui. Tsing-Hui looked at the world god and also glanced at the great Tao's rules that were closely connected to the world god. The next moment, the scarlet abyss sword struck out like a bolt of lightning. Once the celestial slashing sword's aura is out, you will be the first soul to die under my sword. Today's update: the divine wilderness great world will be taken away in one wave. Chapter 858. Immortal Slashing Sword Qi. Tsing-Hui slashed with his sword, and the power of the great path that was constantly supporting the god-dragon sex ancestral world was cleared. If it was before, Tsing-Hui's slash at the falling power of the great path was like cutting water with a knife. Although it could cause the great path law to collapse in a short time, the river that was cut off would eventually be filled up again with the accumulation of the water upstream. The same was true for the power of the great path. But now, what Tsing-Hui was doing was no longer as simple as cutting water with a knife. With the completion of the immortal slashing sword Qi, when he cut off the endless power of the great path with one slash, it also created a dam that blocked and sealed the great path law that was constantly surging. Perhaps with the passage of time, the dam would eventually collapse, and the power of the great path would once again support the god-dragon sex ancestor. But at that time, it was unknown whether the god-dragon sex ancestor was still alive. The power of the cutting path? A great path artifact? The god-dragon sex ancestor's expression changed slightly when Tsing-Hui cut off the connection between the world god and the great path law of the outside world. However, he did not care too much. Instead, he operated the world god's power to mobilize more great path law to support the world god's body, and then used the world god's power to completely expel Tsing-Hui. However, when he planned to let the world god communicate with the great path law of the outside world, the support of the great path law that he received was not even 1,000th of his peak. This result immediately caused the world god's expression to change. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Tsing-Hui's figure shuttled through like a sword Qi that tore through the void, directly shooting at the boundary object of the god-dragon sex ancestor. The sword Qi exploded, and this barely solid and stable boundary object shattered on the spot. Then, it collapsed and formed a circle of shock waves that could be seen with the naked eye, destroying everything within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. After the dissipated shock waves hit hundreds of kilometers away, it suddenly shrank toward the center of the explosion like a river flowing backward. Crazily devoured all the things around it that could be devoured, and a vortex that looked like a black hole immediately formed. Damn it! What's going on? Could it be the power of the path destruction? No, the connection between my world and the power of the Great Way hasn't been completely severed. But why is it that the power of the Great Way that I'm able to obtain is already close to nothing? The divine dragon sex ancestor's eyes were somewhat flustered. At the same time, he stared fixedly at Tsing-Hui, who was in his own world. "It's your doing! Die!" Accompanied by the roar, the world god swept up a monstrous power, like a giant from the ancient wilderness, and constantly attacked Tsing-Hui. As he grabbed out, the space within a radius of thousands of kilometers seemed to be frozen, and time seemed to be frozen in this space. Unfortunately, this method could be said to be effective in dealing with ordinary almighties at the world creation realm with a single thought. Even primal chaos realm supremes would be affected, but to Tsing-Hui, it was not worth mentioning at all. The power of the Great Way of the 10,000 techniques returned to one caused the spatial power that tried to imprison his body to be constantly simplified the moment it got close to him. If the divine dragon sex ancestor's strength when he attacked Tsing Hui was roughly equivalent to a train, when his attack collided with the omnipresent power of the Great Way on Tsing Hui, it became a car. When his attack was about to hit Tsing Hui, it became a bicycle. When his attack completely hit the target, Tsing Hui, the bicycle became a toy car that was bought with a few dollars. Trains, cars, and bicycles could cause minor or fatal injuries when they collided, but a toy car that was bought with a few dollars could injure someone? That was a fool's dream. This was the tyranny of Tsing Hui's power of law. Moreover, this was the external characteristic of his power of law. When this power of law was used on his body, it turned his original body of flesh and blood into a copper head and iron arms, and then it turned the copper head and iron arms into an alloy body. When a toy car collided with a body of flesh and blood, it would no longer have any effect, let alone colliding with an alloy body. The power of the Great Way allowed Tsing Hui to easily dodge the divine dragon sex ancestor's attack. Then, the Scarlet Abyss sword was like a shocking rainbow as it fiercely slashed at the world barrier of the divine dragon sex ancestor's small world. Sword chi erupted, spanning more than 30,000 miles. A huge sword scar extended to the horizon like a heavenly moat. Rumble! Such a terrifying scar tore through the divine dragon sex small world, causing it to immediately shake violently without the support of the Great Way of the divine dragon sex small world. In particular, the surroundings of the pitch-black crack were constantly collapsing. When matter and energy neared the crack, they were constantly devoured and turned into nothingness, causing the crack to grow larger and larger. Damn it, what kind of divine artifact is this? Divine dragon sex ancestor was shocked and angry. The will of the world god combined with the world power, constantly wanted to capture Tsing Hui, but Tsing Hui did not fight with him at all. Although the power of the world was surging and pressing toward him from all directions, he was like an arrow that had been shot out, freely shuttling back and forth in this world. Every time he swung his sword, he would leave a sword scar that was tens of thousands of kilometers long in this small world. These sword scars contained the sealing power of the immortal slashing path sword chi, which could not be repaired by the great Tao. In just a dozen breaths of time, the small world of the divine dragon sex ancestor was showing signs of fragmentation. Stop! Stop! What do you want? This continent? Fine. Fine. As you wish. I'll give you this continent. The divine dragon sex ancestor looked at his world that was constantly being torn apart and faintly showing signs of collapse, and finally felt fear. This continent? What I want isn't as simple as this continent. What else do you want? I'll give it to you. I'll give it all to you. Do you have to be so ruthless to me? Ruthless to you? Back then when your Jade Capital Great World destroyed the Hunyuan Sword Sect, didn't you also ruthlessly kill the disciples and elders of the Hunyuan Sword Sect? Damn it! A group of cultivators who haven't even reached the boundary realm with a single thought. So what if you killed them? You actually want to kill me to avenge them? If you need it, I'll give you 100 traversal realm slaves. Stop! Stop! Old Ancestor Duan Rue, Old Ancestor White Elephant, quickly come and help me. The words of the divine dragon sex ancestor were unable to stop Tsing Hui at all. Seeing that Tsing Hui was still wantonly destroying his world, he finally began to panic and began to call for help. His powerful consciousness rushed into the clouds and rapidly transmitted to Old Ancestor Duan Rue and Old Ancestor White Elephant, who were also from the Jade Capital Great World. In fact, the battle between Tsing Hui and the divine dragon sex ancestor had already attracted the attention of many people. Although the battle broke out in the small world of the divine dragon sex ancestor at the beginning and did not cause much commotion, as Tsing Hui's first sword tore apart the world of the divine dragon sex ancestor, the commotion here could not be hidden from the nearby primes of chaos. In an instant, at least 5 to 6 primes cast their gazes on the battlefield, including Duan Rue and White Elephant, the two primes of chaos from the Jade Capital Great World. However, although the two primes of chaos witnessed the battle, they clearly did not expect the divine dragon sex ancestor to be defeated so quickly. In less than 30 breaths, he was already severely injured to the point where he needed to call for help. This shocked the two primes of chaos. Divine dragon sex ancestor, hold on for a while longer. We'll be there soon. I'm on the continent 19 million kilometers away from you. I'll be there in a moment. The two primes of chaos heard the divine dragon sex ancestor's call for help and immediately responded. They moved quickly and headed towards the divine dragon sex ancestor. Quick, quick, quick! I can't hold on any longer. The divine dragon sex ancestor kept shouting. Huge cracks constantly tore through the world barrier of the small world, exposing it to everyone. If not for the fact that he was a primal chaos realm sovereign and that the framework of the small world was made of great Tao laws, the small world would have collapsed long ago. Seeing that Duan Rue and Bai Xiang would not be able to rush over in a short period of time, the divine dragon sex ancestor had no choice but to turn to the primal chaos realm sovereign closest to him. You know who he is. He's the supreme elder of the Hunyuan Sword Sect, a native force of the divine wilderness great world. The Hunyuan Sword Sect was destroyed by our great world. If I die and our Jade Capital great world loses, he won't let you off. Hurry up and stop him from continuing his evil deeds. The supreme elder of the Hunyuan Sword Sect, a native force of the divine wilderness great world, only 10 million kilometers away from the divine dragon sex ancestor, primal chaos realm sovereign, hesitated for a breath or two before asking. That supreme elder of the Hunyuan heaven sect is said to be a primal chaos realm sovereign. How strong can he be? You can't hold on for such a short period of time, right? Could it be that there's a conspiracy? There's no conspiracy. There's definitely no conspiracy. I swear to the heavens. No, I can't hold on any longer. The divine dragon sex ancestor cried out in horror. He had never felt so close to death before. Primal Chaos Realm Sovereign seemed to have sensed the despair in the divine dragon sex ancestor's words and no longer hesitated. All right, you hold on. I'm coming to help you. He was less than 1,000 kilometers away from the ancestor of the mystical dragon sect. The exact distance was about 9,600,000 kilometers. It was difficult for a chaotic realm supremacy to fly at the speed of light in a great world. Even if the ancestor of the mystical dragon sect and the other two supremacies of the Jade Capital Great World were setting up a trap, he could make use of this time to observe the situation and figure out what was going on. Even if the ancestor of the mystical dragon sect and the other two supremacies of the Jade Capital Great World were setting up a trap, he could make use of this time to observe and figure out some clues. Quick, quick, quick! The divine dragon sex ancestor cried out in horror. At the same time, he rushed toward Primal Chaos Realm Sovereign at his fastest speed, wanting to meet up with him. However, this cry of horror lasted for less than 3 breaths. The divine dragon sex ancestor, who was running wildly, seemed to have undergone a drastic change. He could not help but widen his eyes and let out a soul-piercing howl of despair. Rumble! In the shattered world of the divine dragon sex ancestor, a huge hole suddenly appeared and crazily devoured the shattered world barrier. It was as if tens of kilograms of antimatter were suddenly thrown into the core of a planet. The entire planet's crust began to distort, collapse, and collapse inwards. The magnificent scene of destruction caused the eyes of the 6 supreme martial artists, who were paying attention to this battle, to widen at the same time. Collapse, the world collapse. A small world with a diameter of 240,000 kilometers collapsed. The moment the world collapsed, the divine dragon sex ancestor, who was running wildly, stopped abruptly in the void. After pausing for only a moment, The divine dragon Sek's ancestor's external body was like a weathered sand sculpture. With a bang, it shattered and turned into ashes when his external body turned into dust and was annihilated. The small world with a diameter of 240,000 kilometers also completely collapsed, directly evolving into an existence similar to a black hole singularity. In the center of that black hole singularity, a figure strode out. The ripples of the great Tao laws on his body were like the shadows cast by the sunlight, completely devouring that black hole singularity. Chapter 859. It was Tsing Hui who stepped out of the dark singularity. Stepping out of the dark singularity, Tsing Hui's gaze fell on Supreme Yu Yuan, the chaotic realm expert from the northernmost sea world, who was the closest to him. At this moment, Supreme Yu Yuan, as well as the other two Supreme Chaotic Realm experts from the Jade Capital world, Ancestor Duan Rue and Ancestor White Elephant, stared in disbelief at the void where the ancestor of Divine Dragon sect had been. They seemed to want to sense the aura of the ancestor of Divine Dragon sect from the void, which had nothing left, to confirm that the scene they had just seen was just an illusion. How is this possible? Ancestor of Divine Dragon sect? Has he fallen? Tsing Hui's gaze swept across the remaining 6 Supreme Chaotic Realm experts. Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt its debtor. I, Tsing Hui, am the Supreme Elder of the Hunyuan Sword sect. The Jade Capital world and the northernmost sea world destroyed my Hunyuan Sword sect and cut off my sect's inheritance. This hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. Today, I will kill all the Supreme Chaotic Realm experts from the Jade Capital world and the northernmost sea world in my Divine Wilderness world as a warning to others. Tsing Hui let out a long howl to show his stance. There were only 6 Supreme Chaotic Realm experts from the Jade Capital world and the northernmost sea world. Now that one of them had fallen, there were only 5 left. It would be easy for Tsing Hui to deal with them. However, if his performance caused all the primal Chaos Realm Supremes to unite against a common enemy, and 10 to 20 of them swarmed him together, he might still be able to rely on his advantage to kill them one by one. However, regardless of whether it was the time he had to pay, the price he had to pay, and the risk he had to take, it was not something that could be compared to his current method of killing them one by one. It was obviously the best choice to temporarily separate them. Sure enough, after hearing Tsing Hui's voice, the 3 Supreme Chaotic Realm experts, who had originally felt a sense of crisis, calmed down a little. However, Ancestor Duan Rue, Ancestor White Elephant, and Supreme Yu Yuan, who were in shock, quickly reacted. He wants to deal with the Jade Capital world and the northernmost sea world. I will immediately send a message to the 2 Supreme Masters of the northernmost sea world. He wants to fight against our 2 worlds alone? Even Sovereign Meng Yu of the illusory world doesn't have this ability. As soon as Supremacy Nether Yuan sent the message, he quickly retreated in an attempt to meet up with Patriarch Duan Rue and Patriarch White Elephant. However, just as he was about to retreat, Tsing Hui had already taken a step forward, relying on his non-existent characteristic to close in on Supremacy Yu Yuan like a streak of light, causing Supremacy Yu Yuan's expression to change. What incredible speed! That kind of speed isn't much inferior to that of a sovereign, is it? With a thought, his retreating figure couldn't help but speed up. But no matter how fast he was, Tsing Hui still caught up to him. Tsing Hui, who had become one with his sword, was like an arrow that had been shot from a bow, instantly colliding with Supremacy Yu Yuan's world projection. Even though Supremacy Yu Yuan had immediately manifested the world god in an attempt to stop Tsing Hui from entering his world, it was of no use. Rumble! With a terrifying rumble that caused the void to tremble, the world god that Supremacy Yu Yuan had manifested was like a plank that had been hit by a cannonball, rapidly crumbling. Immediately after, Tsing Hui, who had become one with his sword, fiercely crashed into Supremacy Yu Yuan's world barrier. Like a comet crashing into Earth, A shockwave that could be seen with the naked eye rapidly spread out in Supremacy Yu Yuan's world, covering a radius of several thousand kilometers in the blink of an eye. The entire world was directly penetrated by this attack. Damn it! To think that his true body's strength could reach such a level. He's not walking the path of condensing a small world. Instead, he's fusing the power of his world into one, just like the extreme celestial bodies in the Time King's territory. He's constantly evolving into a white dwarf, a neutron star, and even a black hole. Supremacy Yu Yuan's expression changed drastically. The power of his world continuously surged, and an endless stream of power crazily pressed down, futilely trying to stop Tsing Hui from further destroying his world. However, this battle didn't last for long before Supremacy Yu Yuan's face turned pale. Not good, my boundary artifact has been destroyed. Quick, quick, all of you, come quickly. The boundary artifact has been destroyed? So quickly? Why didn't you mobilize the power of your world to expel him? Ancestor White Elephant, who had rushed over and was relatively close to Supremacy Yu Yuan, was slightly taken aback. Do you think I don't want to? I can't expel him at all. I don't know if it's because he has a defensive Great Tao Divine artifact on him or some other reason, but the impact of my world's power on him is negligible. I can't expel him from my world at all. His strength alone has already surpassed my entire world. The expressions of Ancestor White Elephant and Ancestor Duan Rue, who had rushed over at full speed, changed at the same time. Previously, they had thought that Supremacy Yu Yuan didn't expel Tsing Hui from his world because he wanted to suppress him in his own world, so that the two of them could gather the strongest world god to jointly kill him. However, they hadn't expected that the reason Supremacy Yu Yuan didn't expel Tsing Hui wasn't because he wanted to suppress him, but because he couldn't expel him from his world at all. It should be known that even though a primal chaos realm's supremacy could expand their world to hundreds of thousands of kilometers or even hundreds of thousands of kilometers, this didn't mean that they could really mobilize all the power of that world. The range of power they could mobilize was at most 1/4, 1/5, or even less than that of the entire world. However, this was a different story within a world. The level of power that a primal chaos realm's supremacy could mobilize in their world was equivalent to 80% or even 90% of the world's power. If this power came crashing down, any world god at the primal chaos realm's supremacy wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being crushed to smithereens. Even those peak supremacies, whose worlds had expanded to hundreds of thousands of kilometers, were no exception. However, now that Tsing Hui had invaded Supremacy Yu Yuan's inner world, he couldn't even expel him, let alone suppress Tsing Hui's true body. Didn't this mean that Tsing Hui's strength was equivalent to at least 700,000 to 800,000 kilometers in a small world? A primal chaos realm supremacy whose strength was equivalent to 700,000 to 800,000 kilometers, was this someone that the three supremacies, whose strength was at most only 260,000 kilometers, could deal with? It should be known that a difference of 10 times in diameter meant a difference of 1,000 times in weight. Even if a cultivator couldn't mobilize the power of the entire world at once due to various means and the fact that the cultivator couldn't mobilize the power of the entire world and smash it down, this gap wasn't something that one or two people could make up for. For example, if the moon collided with Earth, it would definitely turn Earth into a sea of fire, exterminating all life on the planet's surface. However, if the moon collided with Jupiter, it would at most cause some ripples. There's actually someone who can expand his world to 700,000 to 800,000 kilometers? How will he cultivate the Origin's sacred body by then? The larger the world, the more difficult it is to form an internal cycle. To cultivate the Origin's sacred body in a world of 700,000 to 800,000 kilometers, this level of difficulty is probably comparable to ordinary sovereigns who transform their bodies into the Tao and reach the great God realm. Most primal chaos realm supremacy's worlds are limited to 200,000 to 300,000 kilometers in size, because this is the easiest area to cultivate the origin sacred body and form an internal cycle. Any primal chaos realm supremacy who expands their world to 500,000 kilometers can no longer be measured by ordinary standards. As for those primal chaos realm supremacies who expand their worlds to 700,000 to 800,000 kilometers, they're usually the type of world protectors who believe that they have no hope of reaching the sovereign realm and only focus on pursuing combat power without caring about their future. If he's a world protector, then it explains why he has such combat power. Even the two of us together won't be enough to deal with a world protector. I feel that we should hurry and establish contact with the other large worlds. Patriarch Duan Rue and Patriarch White Elephant immediately retreated, and their charging figures came to an abrupt halt. This scene shocked and enraged Supreme Yu Yuan. He only has a defensive Great Tao artifact on him. How can he truly have a world of 700,000 to 800,000 kilometers? Can't you see that? Don't forget that we destroyed the Origin Sword sect. This person has already declared that he will definitely destroy our Dark North Great World and Jade Capital Great World. Where do you think the two of you can hide? Unless you don't take a single step into the Divine Wilderness Great World in the future, you'll be the next to die after my death. Supreme Yu Yuan's words caused Patriarch Duan Rue and Patriarch White Elephant to tremble and come to their senses. Rumble! However, just as they were about to speed up, a pitch-black fissure erupted from Autarch Abyss's world along with a sharp sword light. Under this sword light, a small part of Autarch Abyss's world seemed to have been sliced apart. A huge amount of matter was constantly escaping and devouring as the fissure appeared. Seeing this scene, Patriarch Duan Rue and Patriarch White Elephant, who had finally felt a trace of hatred for a common enemy, exchanged a glance and turned to leave at the same time. They left without any hesitation and fled without any hesitation. Duan Rue, White Elephant, Supreme Yu Yuan let out a roar of anger and despair. His voice was filled with madness. He won't let you go. I'll die, and the two of you will die with me. Rumble! An even more violent explosion spread out from Supreme Yu Yuan's small world. More and more cracks appeared as Tsing Hui's sword chi tore apart this small world. Supreme Yu Yuan's fear reached its limit. No. No. Save me, save me. If anyone can save me, I'm willing to give all the Taoist rhymes, divine weapons, and even all the property I've collected over the years to that person. I only ask that person to help me. Supreme Yu Yuan cried out in despair. His voice continued to spread in the void and spread throughout the entire Divine Wilderness Great World. The other two primal chaos realm supremes of the Dark North Great World, who had already received his call for help, rushed over at full speed and roared furiously, "Stop! Stop right now! Tsing Hui, you brat, if you dare to kill the supremes of the Dark North Great World, the Dark North Great World will never rest until you're dead." Their voices transmitted over tens of millions of kilometers. Unfortunately, Tsing Hui completely ignored the threat of the two primal chaos realm supremes of the Dark North Great World. As Supreme Yu Yuan's screams grew louder and louder, when his small world was torn to a certain extent, Tsing Hui once again activated his existence to the extreme. It was as if he had turned into a dark singularity and began to disintegrate this small world that had already been destroyed by him. When this small world was completely destroyed and devoured into a singularity, Tsing Hui's figure appeared again. He then raised his head and looked directly at the two primal chaos realm supremes of the Dark North Great World, who had stopped abruptly. "It's your turn. One by one, there's no rush." Chapter 860. Void Sword Pavilion. Elder I Chen and Elder Lan Xian, who had previously clashed with Tsing Hui, watched the earth-shattering battle in horror. "My God! The battle has begun. He is too bold. The two ancestors of the northernmost sea world have already joined Ancestor Duan Rue and Ancestor White Elephant from the Jade Capital world. 4 chaotic realm supremes have joined forces, yet he still dares to fight them without hesitation? Does he think he can defeat the 4 chaotic realm supremes by himself? If the highest elder of the Hunyuan sword sect is really a world protector, he may not be afraid of the 4 chaotic realm supremes. Elder Ichen said. Elder Lan Xian gritted her teeth. I hope he dies in this battle. No, it would be best if he dies together with the 4 chaotic realms supremes of the Jade Capital world and the northernmost sea world. I hope so too, but since this brat dares to charge at them, he must have a certain degree of confidence in defeating the 4 primal chaos supremes, mainly because the path he's taking is completely different from the other primal chaos supremes. When the other primal chaos supremes roamed the pinnacle of the realm, their divine true body would erupt and evolve into a minor world. Then, they would comprehend the Great Tao and receive the blessing of the Great Tao to ascend to supremacy. However, he's the complete opposite. He's learning from divine beasts and saint beasts, constantly compressing his divine true body and cultivating it successfully. He's now a primal chaos divine beast. So how could ordinary primal chaos supremes be his match? I have heard of this kind of body refining sect cultivators. If they want to cultivate from the realm of forming a world with a thought to the chaotic realm, they either have a great opportunity to strengthen their life essence to a level that is not inferior to that of the divine beasts or even better than that of the divine beasts. Otherwise, they have to invite a great medium to protect them and compress and bless them with the power of the great ways. Only then can they transform their divine true bodies into something similar to the origin sacred body. However, this kind of cultivation method becomes more and more difficult. From the realm of forming a world with a thought to the chaotic realm, they need the blessing of a great medium. If they want to break through from the chaotic realm to the origin sacred body, won't they need the help of an evil god? It's said that one needs the blood of the evil god to cultivate the mixed Yuan saint body. Could it be that this kid believes in the evil god? Elder Ichen seemed to have recalled something. Elder Lan Xian guessed Elder Ichen's thoughts and couldn't help but hesitate. Do you have evidence? Any cultivator above the chaotic realm can pray to His Majesty, the Master of Chaos, and call out His Majesty, the Master of Chaos' true name, so that His Majesty the Master of Chaos can send down His divine sense incarnation to investigate. If this kid is indeed a believer of the evil god, it will naturally be a great merit. With this merit, it won't be impossible for us to break through to the level of Sword Master in the future. But if this Tsing Hui isn't a believer of the evil god, then it'll be equivalent to us making a false report. When that happens, we'll definitely be punished by His Majesty the Master of Chaos. Given the weight of the two of us masters, it won't be strange if we're directly executed by His Majesty the Master of Chaos. Hearing Elder Lan Xian's words, Elder Ichen couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Although he guessed that Tsing Hui might believe in the evil god, he didn't have enough evidence. He didn't dare to bet his life on Tsing Hui's life. Moreover, this kind of prayer was based on speculation without any substantial evidence. It was highly likely that His Majesty the Master of Chaos wouldn't respond. After all, compared to the Master of Time and the Master of Gods who were proficient in handling all kinds of matters, their Master of Chaos was actually only good at fighting. This could be seen from the fact that the higher the level, the rougher and simpler the fighting style became. Whoosh! Just as the two great elders Ichen and Lan Xian were talking, a divine sense suddenly broke through the air and contacted the two great elders of the Void Sword Pavilion. The two great elders were slightly startled, but soon noticed the information in the divine sense. According to the incantation contained in the divine sense, they each divided a part of their spirit and quickly entered a small world that had been opened up. Because most of the Sons of Chaos would choose to upgrade their personal space to the 10th level when they were in the traversing realm, it would be easier to step into the realm of one thought world. As a result, if they wanted to communicate smoothly, they couldn't gather in the personal space of the Chaos Divine Hall. Opening up a small world as a temporary communication place was the way most experts in the realm of one thought world and above chose. When the two separated their consciousness doppelgangers and arrived here, there were already an astonishing 8 Supreme Masters of the Chaos realm here. Including the 2 of them, there were 10 Supreme Masters of the Chaos realm here. If the 2 great elders of the Void Sword Pavilion, Floating Light and Sweeping Shadow, as well as the people of the Jade Capital Great World and the Northernmost Great World, who were in the middle of the war, all the Supreme Masters of the Chaos Realm who invaded the Divine Wilderness Great World were here. Supreme Immeasurable, Supreme Hongba, Supreme Time, Supreme Yi Huan, the 2 great elders Yi Chen and Lan Xian, looked at the figures in the small world and couldn't help but feel shocked. Well, the 2 Supreme Elders of the Void Sword Pavilion have arrived. Everyone is here. Without further ado, let's get straight to the point. The main purpose of gathering you here is to ask you to consider whether we should help Duan Rui and Bai Xiang, the 2 Supreme Masters. With the arrival of the 2 great elders Yi Chen and Lan Xian, Supreme Time, who had the highest cultivation and had already expanded his world to 330,000 kilometers, was the first to speak. Are we going to help Duan Rui and Bai Xiang? The great elder of the Hunyuan sword sect, Tsing Hui, has made it very clear that his main purpose of targeting the Jade Capital Great World and the Northernmost Great World is to take revenge. After all, the Hunyuan sword sect was destroyed by the Jade Capital Great World and the Northernmost Great World. Many of the higher-ups of the Hunyuan sword sect were killed or captured by the masters of the 2 great worlds. In the battle that defeated the Hunyuan sword sect, the Jade Capital Great World and the Northernmost Great World obtained at least 3,000 to 4,000 carrier items each. When they obtained the carrier items, we didn't see them share the benefits with us. Now that they have come to take revenge, why should we meddle in their business? Supreme Master Qiong Yu of the Tai Hua Great World said. That's true, but we can't just watch Tsing Hui act presumptuously in front of us. Don't forget, for the Divine Wilderness Great World, Tsing Hui is a native and we are foreign invaders. We are innately hostile to him. At present, he is still dealing with the great masters of the Jade Capital Great World and the Northernmost Great World under the pretext of taking revenge for the Hunyuan sword sect. Who can guarantee that after he has dealt with the 2 great masters of the Chaos Realm of the Jade Capital Great World and the Northernmost Great World, he won't come after us? After he has defeated and weakened us one by one, it won't be easy for us to join forces to deal with him. Supreme Master Yi Huan of the Dream God Palace, who had a conflict with Tsing Hui before, immediately retorted. Haha, Supreme Master Yi Huan and Supreme Tsing Hui have had a conflict before, so they naturally want to use this opportunity to wash away their disgrace. However, we don't have too serious a conflict with him. Supreme Tsing Hui may have the identity of a native great master of the Divine Wilderness Great World, but I believe that he also understands what will happen if he really intends to become enemies with all of us. I believe that when the time comes, he will make the right choice. This can be seen from the fact that he has only occupied 2 continents after coming to the Divine Wilderness Great World. The reason why he has only occupied 2 continents is because he doesn't have the ability to do so. When he really has the ability to occupy the entire Divine Wilderness Great World, do you think he will be willing to share the Divine Wilderness Great World with us, which produces more than 10,000 items of the way every year? In the past 10 years, which of us great masters has not earned more than 3,000 items of the way every year? And this is because some of our subordinates have secretly embezzled quite a few items of the way. Otherwise, it would not have been difficult for us to earn more than 4,000 items of the way every year. Who wouldn't be tempted by such enormous benefits? I agree with Supreme Master Yi Huan, but dealing with Tsing Hui is not a problem. But who has the confidence to deal with Tsing Hui? Tsing Hui has either obtained an extremely formidable inheritance and grasped a top-notch divine ability, or he has a great Tao divine tool. It is precisely because of this that he has been able to succeed in every battle with us. Moreover, according to the information we have obtained, his primal chaos level is at least the 60th level. In other words, he has all sorts of special abilities such as divine techniques, teleportation techniques, and so on. Once he is in danger, he will immediately use teleportation techniques to escape. How can we stop him from leaving? Supreme Master Wu Yang's words make sense. I'm just afraid that Tsing Hui will engage in guerrilla warfare with us. Every time he ambushes one or two of our great masters, he will immediately turn and flee when we surround him. Over time, within a few years, I'm afraid the dozen of us will be dragged to death by him. Yes, we must pay attention to this problem. If we can't avoid the problem of his escape, we won't be able to kill him. If we can't kill him with his strength, he is a fatal threat to all of us. In the meeting, the various primal chaos supremes spoke one after another, hesitating and deadlocked. At this time, Supreme Master Time seemed to have sensed something and his expression changed abruptly. Supreme Master White Elephant has fallen. Not good, everyone. What we need to discuss now is whether we should act together to rescue the northernmost sea macro world and the Jade Capital macro world, not engage in meaningless quarrels. Patriarch Shui Kuan of the northernmost sea macro world is also so fast. He wasn't this fast when he killed Supreme Master Nether Yuan and the Divine Dragon Sect Patriarch. Now, is he hiding his strength? Why would he hide his strength? Needless to say, he must be wary of us joining forces, so he wasn't willing to go all out in the beginning and misled us. Supreme Master Time's expression immediately turned ugly. Everyone, this matter shouldn't be delayed. We can't let him continue killing Supreme Master Duan Rui and 100 Poison Ancestor. I have to act as soon as possible to stop him from continuing. All right, but I'm a little far from where he is. It should take me 100 breaths to get there. You guys go first. I'm also a little far away. Whoever is the closest to me will go and rescue Supreme Master Duan Rui and 100 Poison Ancestor quickly. I'm held up by some matters. You guys go first, I'll be right behind you. Several Primal Chaos Supremes expressed their opinions almost simultaneously. But after a while, the supreme martial artists present also fell into an awkward silence. After a while, Supreme Master Duan Rui was sealed by the freezing art, 100 Poison Ancestor was locked by the dimensional lock. In the end, they died in despair. Chapter 861. When a cultivator reached the realm of world creation with a thought, they were no longer pure life forms. The characteristics of the Son of Chaos tacitly recognized their life forms as their small world. In other words, when they used the teleportation technique, the power of the teleportation technique tacitly recognized their small worlds to be teleported along with them. Under such circumstances, there was no meaning in using the teleportation technique to escape. This was the reason why Tsing Hui was able to successfully kill the ancestor of Divine Dragon Sect and Supreme Yu Yuan, and why these two Primal Chaos Realm Supremes did not use the teleportation technique to escape. They knew very well that they could not escape. As for the remaining ancestor Duan Rui, White Elephant Ancestor, 100 Poison Ancestor, and Blood Kuan Ancestor, when White Elephant Ancestor died, the remaining three wanted to escape. However, they could not withstand the combination of Tsing Hui's backtrack technique, freeze technique, and dimensional lock. By the time they decided to use the teleportation technique to save their lives, they were already powerless. In the end, the three of them died one after another. When the primal Chaos Realm Supremes in the small world conference room saw this scene for a moment, they looked at each other. While they were shocked, they also felt a strong sense of fear towards Tsing Hui. Under this fear, the primal Chaos Realm Supremes, who originally occupied a radius of tens of millions of kilometers, quickly gathered in twos and threes. Even though 2 or 3 primal Chaos Realm Supremes were not a match for Tsing Hui, but it was enough to give them a slight sense of security. Fortunately, Tsing Hui's subsequent performance could be said to be a man of his word. After killing the Jade Capital World and the Dark North World, Tsing Hui did not stay in the Divine Wilderness Great World any longer. Instead, he quickly flew towards the teleportation formations of the original Eternal Encampment. It seemed that he intended to leave the Divine Wilderness Great World and continue to deal with the primal Chaos Realm Supremes of the Jade Capital World and the Dark North World, who were guarding outside the teleportation formations. This result made the primal Chaos Supremes heave a sigh of relief. In my opinion, we shouldn't be too separated during this period of time, lest Tsing Hui have other ideas and attack us one by one. In addition, the forces left behind in the true Sun Great World can also be slightly relaxed. There is also the native true martial master of the true Sun Great World. This true martial master's battle prowess is extraordinary. We can negotiate with him and allow him to enter the Divine Wilderness Great World to take a share of the loot. In this way, although there is a saying that we are inviting the wolf into the house, it will also make it easier for us to resist Tsing Hui's next move. Time Prime suggested. Those supreme martial artists naturally wouldn't reject this suggestion. One by one, they agreed to it. Everyone, let's start contacting the forces behind you. Although Tsing Hui promised to only attack the people of the Yujing Grand World and the northernmost Grand World, we have to be prepared. I understand. I'll contact Autarch Mengyu right away. All the supreme martial artists agreed and left the small world. At the same time, Time Prime also glanced at Elder Ichen and Elder Lan Xen. You too, if Tsing Hui really wants to kill us all, the final hope lies on the Void Sword Pavilion. The mysterious Void World of the Void Sword Pavilion has a powerful formation power. If we combine the power of a dozen primal Chaos Supremes, we will definitely be able to kill him if we go all out. Therefore, I would like to ask the two of you to be prepared to cooperate with us. Elder Ichen and Elder Lan Xen didn't have a good impression of Tsing Hui, especially Elder Lan Xen, who hadn't found a substitute for the boundary object yet. Hearing Sovereign Time's words, Elder Lan Xen immediately said, "Currently, the Xuanxu world is under Elder Floating Light's control. However, he can't control the Xuanxu world forever. I'll go talk to him right now and get him to hand over the control of the Xuanxu world so that we can cooperate with you sovereigns." "Okay, then we'll have to trouble you, Supreme Lan Xen." Elder Lan Xen nodded and withdrew her consciousness with Elder Ichen. "This Tsing Hui is really terrifying. Ancestor Duan Rui, Ancestor White Elephant, Ancestor Divine Dragon Sect, Ancestor 100 Poison, Ancestor Blood Kuan, Supreme Nether Abyss, all the giants in the chaotic realm who could write legends were killed by him. It's terrifying." Elder Ichen didn't forget to pay attention to the battle between Tsing Hui and the supreme martial artists of the Jade Capital World and the northernmost Sea World when he attended the meeting held by Time Prime. It was because he witnessed the whole thing from beginning to end that he was even more terrified of Tsing Hui. "What's wrong, Elder Ichen? Are you afraid? Have you forgotten that we are the supreme elders of the Void Sword Pavilion? No matter how powerful he is, how dare he kill the supreme elders of the Void Sword Pavilion? Moreover, the Divine Wilderness World earns tens of thousands of objects of carrying Tao every year. Are you willing to give up such a rich profit?" Elder Lan Xen seemed to have seen through Elder Ichen's thoughts and couldn't help but snort. "Of course I'm reluctant. However, Elder Floating Light told me not long ago that the methods Qing Su displayed were definitely not something an ordinary person could possess. He suspected that there was a powerful being behind him. Although our Void Sword Pavilion is impressive, and with the 4 supreme sword techniques, we rank among the top forces below the level of powerful beings. However, if we face a true powerful being, we're still not worth mentioning. A great medium? How is that possible? Elder Lon Xian sneered. If he really has a great medium behind him, he would have made it known to everyone long ago. Why would he wait until now? As for Floating Light, I will have a good talk with him. If Tsing Hui defeats other masters of the chaotic realm, he will certainly not allow our Void Sword Pavilion to share the annual profits of the objects of carrying Tao with him in the divine wilderness world. His next target will definitely be our Void Sword Pavilion. Therefore, if Time Supreme and the others want to take action, our Void Sword Pavilion will have to help them with all we have. Hearing Elder Lon Xian's words, Elder Ichen also felt that he was a little jittery. He immediately nodded. You are right. We should talk to Elder Floating Light. Amazing, amazing. The younger generation really surpasses us in time. At this moment, in another attic of the Void Sword Pavilion, Elder Floating Light couldn't help sighing. In the end, he turned to Bai Shuiying and said, Shuiying, is what you said true? This Tsing Hui has only cultivated for more than 100 years, not even 200 years? Yes, it's absolutely true. Bai Shuiying nodded heavily. In fact, the geniuses in our divine wilderness world are divided into 3 generations. Master Zhu Zhao is known as the first genius of the older generation, but his talent is nothing in the myriad worlds. In our Void Sword Pavilion, he is only at the level of an ordinary disciple. The second kind is like me, reaching the divine realm in less than 300 years. In the end, I was lucky enough to be chosen by my master, the Liha Sword Master, and accepted as a disciple. Haha, you didn't become the disciple of the Liha Sword Master because of luck. Elder Floating Light added with a smile. Bai Shuiying smiled slightly and said again, I'm just making an analogy. I'm the first person of the second generation, but Tsing Hui only took 14 years to cultivate from the longevity realm to the vacuum-shattering realm. This kind of talent is rare even in our Void Sword Pavilion, with the personal guidance of the Sword Master and the support of resources, isn't it? It's not just rare, it's extremely rare. Resources can make one's cultivation advance by leaps and bounds, but the tempering of one's state of mind and spirit requires enough time to polish. I don't know about others, but under the lineage of the Liha Sword Master, the most talented Sword Master Greenpine, took 34 years to go from the longevity realm to the vacuum-shattering realm, more than twice as long as Tsing Hui. Bai Shuiying nodded. It's precisely because Tsing Hui's cultivation in the longevity realm, the saint realm, and the divine realm that I was surprised that he broke through to the chaotic realm in the following 100 years and became a supreme master. But it wasn't hard for me to accept because as early as when I broke through to the boundary realm, I faintly had this premonition in my heart. I didn't expect that such a top genius could be born in a place like the divine wilderness great world. Elder Floating Light, there should be more that you can't imagine. In fact, according to my understanding of Tsing Hui, if Tsing Hui continues to grow like this, it won't be difficult for him to cultivate the origin sacred body and become a sovereign in 100 or 200 years if he's slow. Therefore, if we can show enough sincerity at this time, stand in the position of Tsing Hui and pull him into our Void Sword Pavilion, it will be immeasurable benefits for our Void Sword Pavilion. Maybe by then, there will be another Sword Master in our Void Sword Pavilion. If it's fast, it will be in 100 or 200 years. If it's slow, it will be in 1,000 years. Sword Master, hearing Bai Shuiying's words, Elder Floating Light was finally moved. Although he instinctively wanted to deny it, it was not so easy to be called a Sword Master. But thinking back to Bai Shuai's detailed introduction to Tsing Hui just now, he actually didn't know how to refute her words. Moreover, in my opinion, Sword Master is not necessarily Tsing Hui's limit. If he can continue to cultivate at this speed, after 10,000 years, it's not impossible for him to become a great divine. At that time, our Void Sword Pavilion may really step into the ranks of the top forces in the chaotic divine realm. A great divine. These 4 words made Elder Floating Light's breathing slightly stagnant. After a while, he breathed heavily and said in a deep voice, "If we really intend to pull him into our Void Sword Pavilion, what should we do now? Take the opportunity now to show the position of our Void Sword Pavilion and stand firmly on Tsing Hui's side. Then, how can we protect the interests of our Void Sword Pavilion in the Divine Wilderness Great World?" Elder Floating Light said. "How many carrier items do our Void Sword Pavilion currently get every year?" "The number fluctuates between 1,500 and 2,000. Then, before the rulers come and the interests of the Divine Wilderness Great World are redistributed, I can persuade Tsing Hui to continue to maintain the income of 1,500 to 2,000 for our Void Sword Pavilion. The interests remain unchanged, and our Void Sword Pavilion can have such a powerful sword master. Why not?" Elder Floating Light nodded heavily. "Okay, I'll go and persuade Elder Floating Shadow. Besides persuading Elder Floating Shadow, be careful of Elder Ichen and Elder Lanshin. Although they belong to our Void Sword Pavilion, they are not of the same lineage as us." "I understand. I will control the control of the Xuanxu world with Elder Floating Shadow." Elder Floating Light said with a faint smile on his face, "As time goes by, when Sword Master Tsing Hui shows more and more brilliant achievements, I believe that the 2 great elders Ichen and Lanshin will eventually change their minds. I also firmly believe in this." Bai Shuai nodded slightly. In those years when Tsing Hui was born, those old stubborn people who were not convinced by Tsing Hui but were later left far behind by Tsing Hui until they had to look up to him. She believed that one day, the same scene would reappear on the 2 great elders Ichen and Lanshin. Chapter 862. True Sun Great World. Tsing Hui stepped out of the teleportation formation occupied by the northernmost Great World. Seeing Tsing Hui, who obviously did not have the characteristics of a cultivator from the northernmost Great World, coming out of the teleportation formation, a chaotic realm supreme guarding the teleportation formation was stunned and felt strange. However, before he could ask Tsing Hui about his identity, Tsing Hui attacked. His main purpose of leaving the Divine Wilderness Great World and coming to the True Sun Great World through the teleportation formation was to start a massacre. Since he was going to start a massacre, there was no need to talk nonsense. As soon as he appeared in the teleportation formation, he stabilized his body and attacked. His body was like a thunderbolt, instantly slashing toward the chaotic realm supreme guarding the teleportation formation. The chaotic realm supreme wanted to ask about Tsing Hui's identity, but when he saw Tsing Hui attacking without saying anything, he was furious. "Bastard, who are you? How dare you be so presumptuous in front of Ancestor Tiandu?" As he spoke, the world appeared and a vast and majestic pressure pressed down. At the same time, a world god appeared under the condensation of the power of the entire world. Unfortunately, his means were barely enough to deal with the attack of an ordinary chaotic realm supreme, but against Tsing Hui buzz. As invisible ripples spread out, strands of sword chi that had been condensed to the limit sliced through the ancestor of the Tian capital's world to their heart's content. They ripped the ancestor's world to pieces on the spot. At the same time, Qing Su charged forward again, directly smashing through the ancestor's world and charging into the ancestor's world. Stepping into the world, Qing Su rode his sword in the wind, pushing his speed to the limit. As he flew, countless streaks of light shot past him, slicing through the world barrier in the surroundings viciously, causing the barrier to shake. Tiny cracks constantly spread out and spread out. Presumptuous! Ancestor Tian-du roared angrily. The world god appeared and turned into a towering giant over 10,000 meters tall. He aimed at Tsing Hui, as if he wanted to grab the space around him and crush it together with space and matter. All the chaotic realms means are the same. They only believe in a pure battle of strength? Tsing Hui felt this familiar attack and shuttled out of the confined space with ease. At the same time, he became one with the sword and condensed his power into a point. Like the sharpest sword Qi, he instantly pierced through the world god's giant hand. Then, he leaped into the void, crossing over 10,000 kilometers of space, and landed on Ancestor Tian-du's boundary object. Just have the world's power surged and wanted to expel him, but he had the world. Be ****, I want you dead. Seeing that Tsing Hui had destroyed his world barrier, Ancestor Tian-du, who did not understand the seriousness of the matter, roared angrily. The world's power surged into Tsing Hui's body, as if it wanted to mobilize the world's force to crush Tsing Hui into pieces. However, at the center of the world, Qing Su gasped heavily. Afterwards, light shone from his eyes as sword intent erupted. Countless strands of sword Qi rushed into the air with his sword intent, directly piercing the sky and tearing the space within several tens of thousand kilometers to pieces. Celestial extinction. The great Tao sealed, and the world's laws retreated. Ancestor Tian-du, who was originally angry at the destruction of the world barrier, suddenly felt that something was wrong. If the great Tao had not been sealed, even if the world barrier had been destroyed, he could rely on the great Tao's law to maintain the world. But now, with the great Tao's law sealing, he, a dignified chaotic realm supreme, had been reduced to the realm of one thought. At best, it was equivalent to having the great Tao's law to form the foundation of the world. In this way, the world barrier had been destroyed, and the world was in danger of collapsing. What kind of power is this? Great Tao divine weapon? Or is it the real great Tao's power? It can actually make the great Tao's law that I'm compatible with retreat? Ancestor Tian-du's eyes flashed with panic. Seeing the second burst of sword Qis once again soar into the sky, overtaking the world and tearing out terrifying cracks of varying sizes with diameters of 1,000 to 10,000 kilometers on his world barrier, old Ancestor Tian-du finally felt an intense life and death crisis. Ancestor Deadwood, Ancestor Black Sun, a great enemy is attacking. I can't resist it alone. Quickly come and help me. Ancestor Tian-du roared. His voice spread and quickly alarmed the dozens of chaotic realm supremes around him. As the Scarlet Sun Empire's Heaven Pass Valley was the closest to the divine wilderness Great World, there were several world teleportation arrays set up. There were 4 chaotic realm supremes guarding these teleportation arrays. In addition to the chaotic realm supremes who were watching these teleportation arrays from afar, there were more than 10 of them. When everyone saw the battle between Tsing Hui and Ancestor Tian-du, when they saw Ancestor Tian-du directly bring Tsing Hui into his world, they thought that the outcome of the battle had been drawn to an end. After all, to most chaotic realm supremes, the power they could unleash in their world was several times stronger than outside. Therefore, although they noticed the abnormality here, they did not pay too much attention to it. But in this short delay, the situation seemed to have taken a 360-degree turn. Ancestor Tian-du was actually forced to ask for help from the other 2 chaotic realm supremes of their northernmost great world. This scene immediately attracted the attention of the 10 primal chaos realm supremes in the area. What's going on with Tian-du? It seems like he's in danger? The figure that was swallowed into his world just now looked familiar, but with the interference of the spatial fluctuations emitted by the world teleportation array, I can't tell who exactly it is. It seems that Tian-du is in pain? Is he really unable to hold on? If that's the case, we can consider seizing his teleportation array. Even if we can't, destroying it is also a good choice. At that time, we just need to destroy the teleportation array that connects the true Sun Great World and the northernmost Great World, and the northernmost Great World will be excluded from the competition. That's only if we have the opportunity. If we don't have the opportunity, we will definitely form an irreconcilable hatred with the other chaotic realm supremes of the northernmost Great World. When that time comes, we will inevitably fall into an endless civil war. How will we have time to go to the divine wilderness Great World to plunder the objects of Tao? Just the consumption and losses caused by the civil war alone is enough to give us a headache. The chaotic realm supremes discussed among themselves, but they all looked like they were watching a show. No one had the intention to help. The other two, Patriarch Deadwood and Patriarch Black Sun, who had received Patriarch Tiandu's request for help, rushed over from the horizon at full speed. However, as one of them was sweeping through the true Sun Great World, while the other was guarding the teleportation array of another world, they rushed over one after the other. The distance between the two was at least 20 million kilometers. 20 million kilometers was just a matter of minutes for Primal Chaos Supremes. In a life-and-death battle between Primal Chaos Supremes, it would usually take hours, days, months, or even years. They were already doing their best to travel at this speed. Unfortunately, Tsing Hui's speed could not be measured by ordinary Chaotic Realm Supremes at all. When he sensed that Patriarch Deadwood, who had taken the lead, was about to close in on Patriarch Tiandu, he immediately unleashed the special characteristics of his coalescence Great Tao to the limit and transformed into a black hole that was similar to a universe singularity. At this moment, Patriarch Tiandu's entire small world had been torn into pieces by his sword energy. Although he relied on the Great Tao Law as a foundation and had no problem holding on for a period of time, it was based on the fact that Tsing Hui was still maintaining this destructive speed. Now that Tsing Hui had transformed into a black hole, it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The entire broken small world began to collapse at an extremely terrifying speed. Patriarch Tiandu, who had been urging Patriarch Deadwood and Patriarch Black Sun a second ago, had a deep despair in his eyes. Then, his body was annihilated and turned into a singularity along with his small world, which was then devoured by Tsing Hui. The seventh Tao fruit, after comprehending the coalescence Great Tao, using the supreme celestial technique of blooming flowers in an instant will affect my cultivation. This is the disadvantage. The good thing is that the conditions for using this celestial technique are not as harsh as before, Tsing Hui said. Then, his gaze locked onto Patriarch Deadwood, who was only a few 100,000 kilometers away from him. When Patriarch Deadwood saw Patriarch Tiandu's body crumble and his small world turn into a singularity, which was then devoured by Tsing Hui, his body came to an abrupt halt. However, he was still in disbelief, or rather, unwilling to believe that Patriarch Tiandu, a chaotic realm supremacy of the same level as him, had died just like that. Thus, he did not immediately turn around to escape or activate the teleportation technique. In this short moment of delay, Tsing Hui had already become one with his sword and turned into a sword ray. In an instant, he pierced through the void and shot into Patriarch Deadwood's small world. At this time, the fall of Patriarch Tiandu had brought quite a bit of shock to the surrounding sovereigns. They all looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what to do. Soon, Kulong Supreme, who had previously fought with Tsing Hui, seemed to have thought of something. He said sternly, "Could it be that person? But a year ago, even though he defeated me, severely injured me, and destroyed my boundary artifact, the power he displayed was far from that level. At least, he couldn't kill a primal chaos realm supreme within 100 breaths of time. But now, there's news." At this moment, the chaotic realm supremacy of the illusion world, Nightmare Supreme, suddenly spread the news. I received a message. The chaotic realm's supremacy just now is a native cultivator of the divine wilderness great world. His name is Tsing Hui. He's the supreme elder of a sect called the Hunyuan Sword Sect in the divine wilderness great world. The chaotic realm supremes of the northernmost great world and the jade capital great world destroyed the Hunyuan Sword Sect that he had established. Now he's taking revenge, so it's a personal grudge. Then it's none of our business. Let's just watch the show. That's right. The jade capital great world and the northernmost great world asked for it. Who else can they blame? The chaotic realm supremes, who were originally worried, relaxed when they heard this. No one knew if they were really relaxed or if they were just hoping for a fluke. After all, the strength that Tsing Hui had displayed at this moment was almost above that of an ordinary chaotic realm supremacy. If someone wanted to deal with Tsing Hui, not to mention whether he would respond, at least by doing so, they would definitely offend Tsing Hui. If they really fought, the first person that Tsing Hui would kill would definitely be the person who made this request. Under such circumstances, how many people would be willing to sacrifice themselves for justice? Chapter 863. The following battle did not have much suspense. The Jade Capital World and the Northernmost World each had 2 to 3 chaotic realm supremes in the true Sun Great World. These people were killed by Tsing Hui one by one. After killing the chaotic realm supremes of these 2 worlds, Tsing Hui further destroyed the transmission formation in the true Sun Great World that connected these 2 worlds, as well as the transmission formation in the true Sun Great World that connected to the divine wilderness Great World. Although his actions aroused some suspicions and uneasiness, these chaotic realm supremes were afraid of the terrifying battle power that Tsing Hui had displayed when he killed more than 10 chaotic realm supremes of the Jade Capital World and the northernmost world. In the end, they suppressed their restless thoughts. In addition, the transmission formation in the northernmost world and the Jade Capital World were broken. It was equivalent to having one less competitor for more than 10 chaotic realm supremes of the 2 worlds. From a comprehensive point of view, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. Under such circumstances, when Tsing Hui killed the chaotic realm supremes of the 2 worlds and returned to the divine wilderness great world, those chaotic realm supremes who had vaguely united to attack Tsing Hui finally calmed down. But this peace lasted for less than 2 months. It was broken again. Time Supreme and Illusion Supreme escaped from the divine wilderness great world in a panic and brought news that shocked and enraged all the chaotic realm supremes stationed in the true Sun Great World. Tsing Hui once again attacked the chaotic realm supremes of the Tai Hua Great World, the Illusion Great World, and other forces. First, he quietly killed 2 chaotic realm supremes. It was not until he attacked the 3rd chaotic realm supremes that the violent battle waves were transmitted. Thus, everyone became aware of his insidious means. After realizing that Tsing Hui intended to kill them all, the remaining chaotic realm supremes were furious. When they wanted to unite, the Void Sword Pavilion chose to remain neutral. Even the 2 Supreme Elders, Yi Chun and Lan Xian, were said to have been stopped by the Supreme Elder's floating light and sweeping shadow of the Void Sword Pavilion and could not join their alliance. Originally, there were only 11 Primal Chaos Supremes left. Now, 4 of them were gone, leaving only 7 behind. The 7 of them held a meeting, but before they could discuss whether they should join forces to deal with Tsing Hui had already killed the Primal Chaos Supreme he had ambushed. Moreover, he did not stop at all as he charged towards their immature alliance. In the end, 2 of them had escaped using teleportation techniques. While Tsing Hui was killing the other Primal Chaos Supremes, Time Supremes and Illusion Supremes had rushed into the World Teleportation Array and escaped to the true Sun Great World. As for the remaining 3 Primal Chaos Supremes, needless to say, everyone could guess what would happen to them. For a time, a total of 13 Chaotic Realm Supremes were still entrenched in the true Sun Great World. Except for the two supreme elders of the Void Sword Pavilion, everyone was in danger. There was almost no need for a special call. In less than half an hour after Time Supremes and Illusion Supremes spread the news, the 11 Supremes had spontaneously joined forces. Even Supreme True Marshal had no time to take care of them. Everyone, we've all been tricked by that bastard called Qing Su. Under the guise of avenging the Hunyuan sword sect, he's killed a total of 15 chaotic sovereigns on our side right now. We don't even know where Sovereign Immeasurable and Sovereign Hong Bo, who fled with their teleportation techniques, have gone. Right now, we only have 13 sovereigns left on our side. Even if we find Sovereign Immeasurable and Sovereign Hong Bo, we'll only be able to expand our group to 15 people at most. Supreme Time Supreme's expression was full of exhaustion and anger at being deceived. 15 is the best result. In fact, don't forget that Supreme True Marshal of the True Sun Great World is still resisting. Supreme True Marshal has been constantly increasing his body size during this period of time, as if he no longer cares about his future as a world protector. In just a dozen years, his body has grown from 240,000 kilometers to 350,000 kilometers. Although the new increase in body size can't be converted into pure combat strength so quickly, among all of us, only Supreme Time, Supreme Mengyu, and Taoist ancestor Qiu Dao are confident of defeating him. Supreme Yi Huan muttered in a low voice. In any case, we can't easily give up on the benefits of the Divine Wilderness Great World's treasure. Overall, there is still good news. Back then, there were 16 Primal Chaos Supremes in the Divine Wilderness Great World, excluding the Void Sword Pavilion. In other words, Xing Hui's strength is still insufficient to face 16 Primal Chaos Supremes at the same time. This is also the reason why he chose to defeat us one by one. Although there are only 13 of us left, in terms of fighting strength, we are not necessarily inferior to the 16 Supremes of the Divine Wilderness Great World. In other words, if the 13 of us join forces, we still have the confidence to defeat Xing Hui. Supreme Mengyu said slowly. As the strongest of all the Supremes, she was almost equivalent to 3 Primal Chaos Supremes. Her words still carried great weight in the hearts of everyone. Supreme Time looked at Supreme Mengyu, who was wearing a rainbow-colored feather robe and exuding a graceful and luxurious aura, and felt a little more confident in his heart. In my opinion, there is no time to lose. Let's enter the Divine Wilderness Great World and take advantage of the fact that he has not recovered his strength from the battle just now. We will not give him any chance to breathe and directly kill him. We are not waiting for Supreme Immeasurable and Supreme Hongba? One of the Supremes said, if we wait for the two of them to arrive, our chances of victory will at least be higher. It is always good to have 2 more Supremes. We can't wait. Who knows where the 2 of them have teleported to with their teleportation technique? Supreme Mengyu said. Very well, Supreme Time was about to agree, but at this moment, a wave of spatial fluctuations rapidly spread out, affecting a small part of the true Sun Great World. Our world passage to the Tai Hua Great World has been destroyed. Supreme Withered Dragon's heart sank. Our world passage to the illusory Great World has also been destroyed? Supreme Yi Huan also abruptly raised her head and looked towards the horizon. Its true Sun Great World's native Supreme True Marshal and Supreme Flame River. Supreme Meng Yu's eyes flashed with fury. True Marshal, you really don't know what's good for you. Do you think I can't kill you? You actually dared to cut off our escape route? Of the 3 native Supremes of the true Sun Great World, Supreme Flame River had long been beaten to a pulp. He had already escaped using his teleportation technique several years ago, hiding somewhere to recuperate. On the other hand, Supreme True Marshal had relied on his own strength and the advantage of being at the Primal Chaos level to tangle with Supreme Mengyu. However, it was Supreme Mengyu who had suppressed Supreme True Marshal most of the time. But now, these two Supremes had actually taken advantage of the time when Supreme Meng Yu and the others were gathered in the Crimson Sun Empire's Skyfall Valley to destroy the spatial passage they had established in the true Sun Great World. This was simply preposterous. To resist foreign aggression, we must first pacify our internal affairs. True Sun Great World is our bridgehead for the divine wilderness Great World. We cannot let it continue to be chaotic because of the existence of two little rats. Everyone, I think we should make a move first and get rid of these two little rats. How about it? Supreme Meng Yu's delicate and graceful face was filled with coldness. She was the strongest among them, so her words naturally carried a lot of weight. Even Supreme Time, who could not wait to take advantage of Tsing Hui's weakness, could not refuse her request. He could only nod and say, "All right, then let's get rid of Supreme True Martial and Supreme Flame River first. Let's go." As soon as Supremacy Meng Yu finished speaking, she soared into the sky and charged towards Supremacy True Martial and Supremacy Flame River. However, before they could attack Supreme True Martial and Supreme Flame River, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. It was none other than Tsing Hui. "What? Why are you in such a hurry to leave instead of discussing how to deal with me?" The Sovereign of Time sensed that Qing Su had not appeared in the teleportation formation between the two worlds in the Valley of Heaven's Pass. Instead, he had appeared where the Flame River Sovereign, the True Martial Sovereign, and the others were. He immediately thought of something and his face changed. "You're working with the True Martial Sovereign and the Flame River Sovereign? If you can work together, why can't we? True Sun Great World is the main culprit behind the invasion of your divine wilderness Great World, yet you, if they're willing to admit their mistakes and voluntarily join our divine wilderness Great World, why can't they become our subordinate forces? Alright, enough nonsense. Tsing Hui, is it? You've killed a dozen or so primal Chaos Realm Supremes on our side with sneaky methods, but if you think that's enough to stop us, then you're sorely mistaken. Everyone, no more nonsense. Attack together and injure him severely. Furthermore, I'll temporarily raise my Primal Chaos Realm to level 60 and use Dimensional Lock to lock him down. I won't let him escape before our eyes." Level 60? Supreme Time, Supreme Yihuan, Supreme Kulong, Supreme Qi Rui, and the others were shocked when they heard Supreme Meng Yu's words. One had to know that the majority of their Primal Chaos Realm experts were only at level 44, and this level was mostly due to the large amount of Dao-bearing treasures they had collected from the Divine Wilderness Great World. Otherwise, with nearly 10 Primal Chaos Realm Supremes in a Great World, every one of them above level 30, the annual expenditure would reach an astonishing 3,000. This number definitely exceeded the production limit of Tai Hua Great World and Illusory Great World. Even if they were all at level 44, to raise their dimensional lock from level 44 to level 60, they would have to waste a total of 1,600 Dao-bearing treasures. This was a year's worth of Dao-bearing treasures produced by many great worlds. Divided equally among 8 or 9 Supremes, it was equivalent to 8 or 9 years' worth of income. Even for Primal Chaos Realm Supremes, this was a huge loss. After all, income did not equal savings. A wage earner with a monthly salary of 10,000 and an annual salary of 120,000 would still feel heartache when faced with the loss of an additional 100,000. An annual salary of 120,000 did not mean that they would be able to save an additional 100,000. There were too many additional expenses. If they still had car loans, mortgage loans, parents, and children to support them, they would be thankful if they could save 10 or 20,000 every year. Supreme Meng Yu was willing to raise her Primal Chaos Realm to level 60 and use the Dimensional Lock to deal with Tsing Hui. This fully demonstrated her determination. "All right, today, we will risk our lives to accompany you. If we do not take advantage of this opportunity to kill this brat, we might not have another chance in the future. We will also miss out on the bountiful benefits of the Divine Wilderness Great World. Even if the rulers still have 80 years to come, this is still a loss of 20 to 30,000 Dao-bearing treasures. Everyone, let us do our best. This is our only chance. Don't care about morality. Let's attack together and kill. Chapter 864. Sword Master Mingyu, are we really not going to do anything? It is said that Tsing Hui intends to join our Void Sword Pavilion. Moreover, according to Elder Fu Guang, if he really only used 100 years to cultivate to the Sword Master realm, his future is bound to be limitless. If we do him a favor now, if he makes a meteoric rise in the future, it will be difficult for him to refuse the request of our Void Sword Pavilion. Judging from how he treats the aborigines of the divine wilderness great world, this person can be said to be affectionate and righteous. The battle between Tsing Hui, Supreme Time, Supreme Mengyu, and the others broke out in an instant. In a void millions of kilometers away from the battlefield, two people were staring at the fierce battle without blinking. Not long ago we sent a message to Tsing Hui and asked if he needed help, but he refused. I think he should want to show his strength to increase his weight in the Void Sword Pavilion in the future. After all, the Sword Masters of the Void Sword Pavilion are rushing here at full speed. If he doesn't show enough excellence, when the other Sword Masters arrive, his influence as a chaotic realm Sword Master will immediately become negligible. The one called Mingyu was a woman in a white dress who looked to be about 30 years old. Compared to Supreme Mengyu's graceful and luxurious appearance, she looked much more simple and elegant. That's true. However, do you think what Shuaying said is credible? What is it? Sword Master Mingyu pondered for a moment and quickly thought of something. She said that he can cultivate the origin sacred body and become a sword master in a few hundred years or even 1,000 years. That's right. That's impossible. The bright jade sword master shook his head. On the path of cultivation, there are many stages that require extremely harsh resources. For example, the golden elixir stage of the saint stage, the divine true body of the saint stage, and the boundary with a thought stage. Above that is the second tier of the chaos realm, where one cultivates the chaos sacred body. Let's not talk about the accumulation of resources for this stage for now. The key is to obtain the origin of the Great Way. Only by using the origin of the Great Way as the foundation can the condensed origin of the Great Way be endless. If one wants to obtain the origin of the Great Way, it would be difficult to do so even if one were to rely on collecting day and night. Those ancient sects often gather the power of hundreds of Chaos Realm Supremes in one body. Only then would they be able to accumulate enough precepts of the Great Way to condense the origin of the Great Way into the origin of the Great Way and cultivate a ruler. There are only two paths left. One is to worship the evil god, and the other is to make a great contribution and be bestowed by the Great Master of Chaos. The origin of the Great Tao. Another Fei Xing sword Venerable sighed. Before reaching the primal chaos realm, very few people believed in the heretic god. On one hand, they were too weak and might not be placed in the eyes of the heretic god. On the other hand, no matter what difficulties one faced, there would always be a solution. However, the origin of the Great Way required to break through from the chaotic realm to the ruler realm had stopped countless supremes. Among the myriad worlds in the territory of the Master of Chaos, there were usually 5 to 10 supremes in each major world. Some of the stronger worlds might even have dozens of supremes. However, even among hundreds of major worlds, there might not be a single ruler. From this, one could see how difficult it was to become a ruler. The origin of the Great Way. It's too rare. Obtaining the origin of the Great Way will allow one to obtain the origin of the Great Way and obtain the origin of the Great Way. The next step is to continuously strengthen the origin of the Great Way. One day, the origin of the Great Way will be able to transform into the Great Way and become a great divine master. Because of this, The value of the origin of the Great Way is much higher than the merit points obtained from killing a great divine master. Back then, the Immortal Path civilization in this world used a special method to create a strange world called the Daluocean. The location of that world was infinitely close to the origin of the Great Way. Any supremes who entered that world could comprehend and refine the mysteries of the origin of the Great Way and become a ruler, which is what they called the Daluocean. Unfortunately, the essence of the Daluocean was lost after it was shattered. Otherwise, if we obtained it, we would be able to cultivate all the sword venerables in our Void Sword Pavilion into sword masters. The location of the Daluocean is a mission with a reward of one divine weapon of creation. Furthermore, the Great Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time are all offering rewards. Even if we found the location of the Daluocean, we would still be hunted to death by the Daluocean immortals living in seclusion in the Daluocean. The Jade Star Swordmaster said. The bright Jade Swordmaster was taken aback when he heard this, but he nodded in the end. That's true. The two of them stopped talking and focused their attention on the two sides of the battle. At this moment, Tsing Hui, Time Supremes, Meng Yu, and the others were fighting with all their might. They attacked with all their might, and the vast and mighty energy shattered everything within a radius of millions of kilometers around them. From afar, it was as if a withered dragon had appeared in the vast true sun-great world. Moreover, this was because the green ruins had directly entered the miniature worlds of the Supreme Beings most of the time, so their miniature worlds had basically absorbed all the power. Otherwise, the destruction of the true Sun world would not have been as simple as just 1 or 2 million kilometers. It would not have been difficult for it to reach over 10 million kilometers or even several tens of million kilometers. Currently, the 13 Supremes of the Chaos Realm were working together as one. Once one of them was attacked, the 12 world gods would immediately swarm forward and attack Tsing Hui. 1 or 2 of these world gods might not be able to do anything to Tsing Hui, but the 12 of them would be able to stop Tsing Hui's attacks. Furthermore, the world gods only condensed 1/10 of the energy in their small world. Even if they were destroyed, they could just condense another one. Anyway, the Great Way of the Tao was constantly replenishing them, and the depleted energy would not take long to completely recover. Furthermore, among these people, Supreme Meng Yu was proficient in illusory realm attacks. Even though Tsing Hui could see through these illusions very quickly, they could still affect him for a moment. There were a few times when Tsing Hui wanted to pursue and attack one of the Supremes of the Chaos Realm, but he was saved by Supreme Meng Yu using her illusory realm powers. Currently, the battle between the two sides was in a stalemate. That's it. That's it. We have the support of the Great Way of the Tao, while he spends most of his time traversing our small world. He can't continuously replenish his energy from the Great Way of the Tao. As long as this continues, we'll definitely be able to exhaust him to death in 3 to 5 days, and defeat him in the end. Supreme Meng Yu's eyes flashed as she looked at Tsing Hui, who was trapped by the 13 world gods in the Paragon of Illusion's small world. Everyone, be careful. Once the world is severely damaged, immediately withdraw from the battlefield temporarily. After the world is repaired, rejoin the battle. He has a powerful killing move that can transform into a black hole and devour a world. However, this killing move clearly has a huge drawback. On one hand, he can't be in a stalemate with us. In other words, he has to seal our Great Way of the Tao. On the other hand, he can't devour a complete world. He has to cut it into pieces. As long as we pay attention to these 2 points, his other methods won't be a threat at all. Supreme Time had previously clashed with Tsing Hui, so he was the most familiar with Tsing Hui's methods. He hurriedly warned everyone. Understood. Looks like that's all he has. So long as we're careful and don't allow him to focus on a single person, then we don't have to pay too much attention to him. Exactly. Next, we'll follow Supreme Meng Yu's plan and exhaust him to death. The supreme exalts grew more and more excited as they fought, and they seemed to have seen the dawn of victory. The might of the immortal annihilation sword at the initial stage really is slightly inferior. If the immortal annihilation sword reaches the advanced stage, then the ceiling effect wouldn't just be temporary, and it would be permanent. At that time, I just have to destroy their treasures and strike each of them once, and then I'll be able to slowly wait for their worlds to collapse. At this moment, Tsing-Hui felt that he wasn't strong enough. However, it was merely a feeling. Do you really think I'm unable to destroy a complete world? The immortal annihilation sword isn't just capable of sealing your grand Daos, it's even capable of creating a Daoseal barrier. Moreover, a Daoseal barrier created with my body as the foundation is even stronger. Tsing-Hui's figure flashed and directly arrived at the center of World Sovereign Inhuan's minor world that had its treasures destroyed. Rays of light instantly shot towards the surroundings, and countless strands of sword qi interweaved together to form a net of sword qi that was only around 100 kilometers in diameter. On the other hand, Tsing-Hui, who was at the center of the net of sword qi, took a deep breath. In the next moment, he suddenly fused into the vortex that had been formed from the destruction of the treasures, and he transformed into a black hole. As soon as his black hole appeared, the rate at which the minor world was collapsing towards its center suddenly sped up. The matter in an area of a few thousand kilometers was madly swallowed up and drowned by the vortex. Even from the outside world, one could clearly see that a certain location in World Sovereign Inhuan had started to sink down with a single point as its center, and a small crater was swiftly forming. Damn it! What's he trying to do? Is he trying to forcefully devour my world? Hurry up and stop him! Terror flashed through World Sovereign Inhuan's eyes. The feeling of his world ceaselessly collapsing was like a mortal who had a wound cut open and was constantly bleeding out. It simply made him feel like he was facing death. Stop him! Transform into a black hole? Fill up his black hole and tear it apart. The remaining chaotic realm exalts roared fiercely. Numerous world gods charged at Tsing-Hui with the futile attempt of destroying the black hole. However, when their world gods were about to approach Tsing-Hui, all of them became blurry and began to tremble. The connection between the world gods and their bodies seemed to be greatly disrupted, and it was on the verge of collapse. Very soon, Time Sovereign understood what was going on, and his expression immediately changed. He's using that power of sealing the great Tao on himself and his surroundings. The area around him has now become a forbidden zone of the great Tao. No, it's not a forbidden zone of the great Tao. There's still the power of the great Tao that he's relying on, a divine weapon of the great Tao. If we want to destroy the black hole that he's transformed into, we'll first have our own power of the great Tao weakened, and then we'll be attacked by that power of the great Tao. By the time we truly arrive before him, the power of the world gods will already be less than a tenth of their original power. We can slightly fill up the black hole that he's transformed into and make it harder for him to devour World Sovereign Inhuan's minor world, but we can't destroy the black hole that he's transformed into. Unable to destroy, that was to say, they could only watch as Tsing-Hui's black hole devoured World Sovereign Inhuan's minor world by force? Chapter 865. Save me! Exalt Ihuan's miserable and shrill cry resounded by the ears of everyone, and it caused coldness to arise in their hearts. Even though all of them had utilized their world gods to ceaselessly charge against the Daoseal barrier that was 100 kilometers in diameter, they would definitely be ceaselessly minced apart by the myriad of strands of sword qi that formed the barrier every single time they charged into it. When they finally broke through the blockade of sword qi with great difficulty, less than 10% of their world gods' remaining strength was left. So, not to mention tearing apart the black hole that Tsing-Hui had transformed into, they couldn't even escape their fate of being swallowed. Even their world gods were buried within the black hole vortex that Tsing-Hui had transformed into. It can't be helped. There's nothing we can do. Time Exalt, don't you have a formidable fortune artifact in your possession? So what if it's a fortune artifact? At our level of cultivation, unless we possess a great Tao artifact, otherwise we can't utilize any decisive strength at all. We can't save Exalt I Huan. Besides having pain on his face, Time Exalt even carried a trace of terror. We can't. As they gazed at Exalt I Huan, who was ceaselessly crying for help, they felt as if their entire bodies had fallen into an icy pit, and unprecedented terror arose from the bottom of their hearts. When they saw that Exalt I Huan wouldn't be able to hold on for long before Tsing Hui completely destroyed the balance of the world and forcefully swallowed him, Exalt Meng Yu, who belonged to the illusory world, just like I Huan, couldn't help but shout, "Tsing Hui, what exactly are you trying to do?" However, there was no reply. The black hole that Tsing Hui had transformed into wasn't just capable of swallowing light and sound, it was even capable of swallowing divine sense. All the ripples of energy that entered the black hole were like rocks that had sunk into the ocean, and they didn't cause any response at all. "I know you can hear us. What exactly are you trying to do?" Exalt Mengyu spoke furiously. Deathly silence. "Tsing Hui Yu. Sovereign Mingyu, could it be that you can't tell? What he wants is for us to die." Time Exalt spoke in a heavy voice. Supreme Dream Feather gritted her teeth. "I refuse to believe that he can ignore our attacks and go all out. So what if he turns into a black hole? Once the black hole that he has transformed into is unable to restrain its own mass, it will begin to explode outwards. In the end, the black hole that he has transformed into will disintegrate and evaporate. What awaits him is also the fate of death. Yes, let's stuff him to death. This is the only way. What Sovereign Mengyu said is correct. I refuse to believe that the black hole that he has transformed into will be able to bind all of our matter." The remaining Exalts immediately stopped hesitating, and they ceaselessly utilized their world gods to attack Tsing Hui's Daoseal barrier. As for Paragon Inhuan, who was constantly screaming, at this time, everyone could only tacitly agree that they couldn't hear his cry for help and helplessly give up on him. Finally, the Paragon world of illusion, which had been begging for mercy for half an hour, was swallowed to its limits and began to collapse inwards. Not long after, the world collapsed into a singularity, and Tsing Hui's figure finally appeared. Tsing Hui's expression didn't change at all after he appeared, and his gaze swiftly swept past all the chaotic realm exalts. As his gaze descended, the expressions of those chaotic realm exalts who were attacking him without end changed drastically, and they retreated swiftly as quickly as they could. Obviously, they were very clearly aware that Tsing Hui would definitely choose a second target, and then transform himself into a black hole and devour that target. None of them wanted to become the second Paragon Inhuan. But once they retreated, the encirclement naturally dispersed, and it was utterly easy for Tsing Hui to leave if he wanted to. However, after Tsing Hui glanced at them, he didn't pursue them. He just stood on the spot and seemed to be recuperating. He's adjusting his state and digesting the negative effects of swallowing Paragon Inhuan. Withered Dragon Supreme widened his eyes and said sternly, "Right now, he shouldn't have the ability to forcefully swallow another Paragon small world. Let's quickly attack and kill him before he completely digests the negative effects of swallowing Paragon's small world of illusion." "That's right, now should be the best time to kill him. If we miss today, it'll be wishful thinking for us to kill him again. Everyone, whether we can kill this great enemy, whether we can continue to occupy the divine wilderness great world, and enjoy the benefits of hundreds of years of Tao items, it all depends on today." The other chaotic realm exalts shouted loudly, all of them filled with righteous indignation, as if they were about to charge up and fight Tsing Hui to the death. But it was just as if the chaotic realm exalts shouted loudly, expressing their attitude. They were extremely proactive, but no one took the lead to charge up and be the first to attempt to kill Tsing Hui. For a moment, the chaotic realm exalts who had been shouting for a while gradually stopped, all of them sizing each other up and looking at each other in dismay. Because everyone knew that at this time, whoever charged up first and became Tsing Hui's first target would definitely die without a complete corpse. Just like Paragon Inhuan just now, even if all of them kept attacking from the outside, they still couldn't do anything. They could only watch as the Paragon who was swallowed by Tsing Hui died. Who was not willing to be the first to die. If this goes on, there's no way to fight, Qirue Supreme muttered. Although he was muttering, everyone present was a chaotic realm exalts. As long as it wasn't a divine thought transmission, even if he made an undetectable sound, it would be heard clearly. Everyone, we need to discuss a plan, Time Sovereign said. If this goes on, all of our efforts just now will be in vain, and Paragon Inhuan will have sacrificed himself for nothing. Even if we join forces in the future to get our hands on the divine wilderness great world's treasures, it will become a joke. Think about it, a treasure worth hundreds of years of Tao in a year, 3,000 to 4,000 years of Tao in 10 years. Are you willing to give it up so easily? However, Sovereign Mingyu's gaze landed on the Sovereign of Time immediately. Sovereign of Time, you have the largest miniature world among all of us. Why don't you go and deal with Qing Su first? You'll keep him busy while we interfere from the side. He's just refined Paragon Inhuan's minor world, so he definitely can't completely digest the negative effect. If you go up now, he won't be able to do anything to you. If I go up to tie down Tsing Hui, who will be able to deal him a fatal blow? Time's Sovereign said unhappily. The battle has only been a battle of attrition, so before Sovereign Mengyu could finish speaking, a primal chaos sovereign behind her shouted in fear, "Everyone, he's moving, he's moving!" Tsing Hui seems to have already suppressed the negative effects of refining Paragon Inhuan. Not good, he's coming for us. As he spoke, Tsing Hui stepped through the void and charged towards one of them. In order to cut off Tsing Hui's escape route, these primal chaos sovereigns had surrounded him in a circular formation. As they retreated slightly, the encirclement had loosened somewhat. Now that Tsing Hui was charging towards Withered Dragon Sovereign, whose delimitation artifact he had previously destroyed, there was no one nearby who could stop him immediately. By the time they reached Withered Dragon Sovereign, Tsing Hui had already pierced through Withered Dragon Sovereign's minor world with a single sword strike and killed his way into it. Quick, quick, everyone, please help me expel him from my small world. Attack, everyone, attack with all your might. There's no need to discuss who will be the first to go up. Kill him with all your might. Whether or not we can continue plundering in the divine wilderness great world will depend on this battle. Don't hold anything back. Withered Dragon Sovereign's fearful shout and the voices of Time Sovereign, Mengyu Sovereign, Qirue Sovereign and the others echoed from the crowd. It was a chaotic scene. If an outsider were to observe their chaotic state, they would think that they were a mob. In reality, although there were quite a number of primal chaos sovereigns present, as many as 13-12, in reality, they were no different from a mob. Basically all the chaotic realm sovereigns came from different organizations. Even though they were united because of Green Ruins, it was impossible for them to trust their allies completely to the point where they would leave their backs to them. Under these circumstances, if they really came across any danger, they would definitely think of a way to protect themselves as soon as possible. As for the lives of others, they couldn't be bothered to care so much. Under such circumstances, even though the remaining 11 primal chaos sovereigns kept pestering Tsing Hui as world gods, they couldn't form a decent organization to attack continuously. In less than half an hour, Withered Dragon Sovereign followed in Sovereign Yi Huan's footsteps and was once again devoured by Tsing Hui. Such an outcome made the primal chaos sovereigns look at each other and completely dispel any thoughts of continuing the battle with Tsing Hui. Over the years, we, Taoist Seeker, have collected 3,000 to 4,000 years worth of Tao items in the divine wilderness great world. I'm already satisfied with this. Since the rulers will arrive in a few decades, I won't continue to accompany you. I, Taoist Seeker, will withdraw from the battle for the Tao items in the divine wilderness great world. The first to give up was Taoist Seeker, who valued the Tao items the most. As his voice rang out, he flew into the sky at his fastest speed and tore through the void in the blink of an eye, flying into the depths of the void. The World Transfer Array had already been destroyed by Sovereign Flaming River and Sovereign True Marshal. If they wanted to leave the True Sun Great World and leave the battlefield, this was the only way. Taoist Seeker Yu, seeing Taoist Seeker leave, Sovereign Meng Yu and Sovereign Time were instantly enraged. Xing Hui, who had killed Withered Dragon Sovereign and was planning to adjust his condition, saw that everyone was planning to escape and immediately shouted, "My divine wilderness great world isn't a place where you can come and go as you please. You've been wantonly destroying our divine wilderness great world all these years. How can it be justified if you don't pay the price? Stay here." As soon as he finished speaking, he soared into the sky and charged towards Sovereign Chi Rui, who was the closest to him. In an instant, he had killed his way into Sovereign Chi Rui's small world, destroyed Sovereign Chi Rui's boundary item, and turned into a black hole that began to devour him. Not good. He still has strength left. Damn it, how are we supposed to fight? If we continue fighting, we'll definitely die. I'm not going to accompany you. If we don't escape while he's dealing with Sovereign Chi Rui, I'm afraid we won't have the chance to escape again. Although the Tao items are good, what's the point if we know we'll die in the end? The remaining Primal Chaos Realm sovereigns finally collapsed when they saw Xing Hui attacking again without any rest. In an instant, the remaining Primal Chaos Realm sovereigns scattered like a nest that had exploded. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.